At 3 in the morning, Ethan Cole learned that wealth can't buy you peace, only silence. The pounding on his door shattered both. A barefoot woman stood shivering on his porch, eyes wide with terror, whispering about footsteps in her empty house. What he found across the street would pull him into something he'd spent 2 years avoiding, feeling anything at all. This is the story of one night that broke two people open, a confrontation that nearly turned deadly, and the messy, complicated thing that happens when protection becomes something deeper. If you stay until the end, hit that like button and drop a comment with your city. I want to see how far this story travels. The first thing Ethan noticed was that she wasn't wearing shoes. It was a strange detail to focus on, given that a woman he'd never spoken to was standing on his porch at 3 in the morning. But there it was, bare feet on cold concrete, toes curled against the chill, and the kind of trembling that started somewhere deep and worked its way out. "I'm sorry," she said, and her voice cracked on the second word. "I know it's late. I heard something." Ethan blinked himself more awake, one hand still on the doorframe, the other holding his phone. He'd been up anyway, couldn't sleep, had been staring at quarterly reports in his home office, like they might somehow organize themselves if he glared long enough. The knock had actually been a relief. Anything was better than another hour of pretending he was productive. "You heard something," he repeated, because his brain hadn't fully caught up yet. She nodded, quick and jerky, arms wrapped around herself. She was wearing what looked like pajamas, thin cotton pants and a tank top that wasn't doing much against the October air. Her hair was pulled back in a messy knot, and there were circles under her eyes that suggested she hadn't been sleeping much better than he had. "In my house, upstairs. Footsteps, I think, or, I don't know, something heavy moving around." She glanced over her shoulder at the small craftsman across the street, its windows dark. "I know how it sounds. I know I probably but I can't go back in there alone. I can't." The fear in her voice was real. Ethan had spent enough years reading people across conference tables to know when someone was performing and when they were barely holding it together. This woman was about 2 seconds from falling apart completely. "Okay," he said, and something in his chest shifted. Some old instinct he thought he'd buried. "Let me grab my shoes." He left her on the porch, didn't invite her in, didn't want to spook her more than she already was, and found his sneakers by the door, pulled on a hoodie over his t-shirt. His phone went in his pocket. He grabbed the heavy mag light from the kitchen drawer, the one he kept for power outages, and when he came back outside, she was exactly where he'd left her, staring at her house like it might bite. "I'm Ethan," he said as he stepped off his porch. "Lena." She fell into step beside him, hugging herself tighter. "I moved in about a month ago. I've seen you around with your son. I should have introduced myself before now. It's fine." He didn't say what he was thinking, which was that he'd noticed her too. Hard not to notice when someone moved into the house that had been empty for 6 months. Harder still when that someone was a woman who seemed to spend most of her time on her porch with coffee and a book, looking like she was hiding from the world. They crossed the empty street. Oakview Lane was one of those quiet residential blocks where nothing much happened, where people kept their lawns neat and their Christmas lights tasteful and their business to themselves. Ethan had bought his house here specifically because it was boring, predictable, safe. Apparently that was changing. Lena's house was smaller than his, older, with a porch that sagged slightly on one side, and paint that had faded to a color that might have been blue once. The front door was closed but not locked. He tried the handle and it turned easily. "You left it open?" "I ran out fast." Her voice was barely above a whisper now. When I heard the noise, I didn't think. I just went." Ethan pushed the door open slowly, light from the street lamp spilling into a narrow hallway. He flicked on the mag light, swept it across the space. Living room to the left, kitchen straight ahead, stairs going up on the right. Everything looked still, undisturbed. No overturned furniture, no signs of forced entry from this angle. "Stay here," he said quietly. Lena caught his arm, fingers digging in hard enough that he felt it through the hoodie. "Don't. I'm just going to check upstairs. I'll be 2 minutes." "What if someone's still up there?" Good question. Ethan wasn't a cop, wasn't trained for this, but he was 6'2", and built solid from the years when he'd used the gym to avoid thinking about his wife's empty side of the bed. He figured that counted for something. Then they're going to have a bad morning, he said, with more confidence than he felt. He moved through the house methodically, checking the kitchen first. Back door still locked, no signs of tampering. Then headed upstairs. The steps creaked under his weight, loud in the silence. 3 bedrooms and a bathroom. The first bedroom was empty except for boxes stacked against one wall, still taped shut. The bathroom was clear. The second bedroom had a mattress on the floor and a lamp. Nothing else. The third, the master, looked lived in. Unmade bed, clothes draped over a chair, a stack of books on the nightstand. No intruder. No broken windows. No obvious signs that anyone had been here who shouldn't be. He was about to head back down when something caught his eye. The window in the master bedroom, the one overlooking the backyard, the latch was undone. Not broken, just unlocked. He crossed to it, examined the sill. No scuff marks, no dirt tracked in, but when he looked down at the yard below, he could see where the grass had been flattened beneath the window, like someone had stood there recently. His jaw tightened. Downstairs, Lena was exactly where he'd left her, one hand pressed to her mouth, eyes tracking his descent like he might disappear. "Nothing upstairs," he said, keeping his voice even, "but we should check your back door." "Why?" "Just want to be thorough." The back door was in the kitchen, an old wooden thing with a deadbolt that looked original to the house. When Ethan got close, he could see the problem immediately. Fresh scratches around the lock, bright against the weathered wood. Someone had worked at it with something metal, a screwdriver maybe, or a pry bar. They hadn't gotten in, but not for lack of trying. Lena saw it the same moment he did. The small sound she made was barely human. "Hey." Ethan caught her by the shoulders before she could crumple. "Hey, you're okay. They didn't get in." "They tried. Someone tried to—" She was hyperventilating now, breath coming in short gasps. "I heard them. I actually heard them, and I thought I was crazy. I thought, you're not crazy." He guided her to one of the kitchen chairs, crouched down so they were eye level. "This is real. Someone tried to break in, but they didn't make it inside, and you did exactly the right thing by getting out." She pressed both hands to her face, shoulders shaking. "I can't go back to sleep here. I can't." "You're not going to." The words came out before he'd fully thought them through. But once they were out there, Ethan didn't take them back. He watched Lena's hands drop, watched her look at him with something that might have been hope, or might have been desperation, or might have been both. "What?" "You're not spending the rest of the night here alone," he said. "Grab whatever you need. You can crash at my place until morning, then we'll figure out next steps." "I can't ask you to—" "You're not asking. I'm offering." He stood up, pulled out his phone. "I'm going to call the non-emergency line. Get this documented. You should pack a bag." She stared at him for a long moment, like she was trying to figure out if he was real, if this was actually happening. Then she nodded once, quick and shaky, and disappeared upstairs. Ethan made the call. The dispatcher was professional but not particularly concerned. No active threat, no actual break-in. They'd send an officer by in the morning to take a report. He thanked her, hung up, and tried to ignore the anger simmering under his skin. Someone had tried to get into this woman's house while she was sleeping, and the best the police could offer was a report in 8 hours. Lena came back down with a backpack and a jacket, had put on sneakers this time. She looked steadier, but not by much. "Ready?" Ethan asked. "I don't know how to thank you." "Don't." He opened the back door carefully, checked the yard. Empty. Dark. "Come on." They went out the front, locked the door behind them. The walk back across the street was quiet, just their footsteps and the distant sound of a car passing on the main road 2 blocks over. Ethan's house was bigger than hers, newer, the kind of place that had been featured in a magazine once when he wasn't paying attention. He unlocked the front door, disabled the alarm, and gestured her inside. "Guest rooms upstairs, second door on the left. Bathrooms across the hall. There are towels in the closet if you want a shower." Lena stood in his entryway, backpack clutched in both hands, looking lost. "I feel like I'm imposing." "You're not." "I woke you up at 3 a.m. May. M. I was awake already." Ethan locked the door, reset the alarm. "Look, I know this is weird. I know we don't really know each other, but someone tried to break into your house tonight, and until we know who and why, you shouldn't be alone. So just Take the room. Try to get some sleep. We'll deal with everything else in the morning. She nodded slowly. Thank you, Ethan. Don't mention it. She went upstairs, and he heard the guest room door close, heard the shower start running a few minutes later. Ethan stood in his kitchen, staring at nothing, trying to process the last half hour. He'd lived on this street for 4 years, had exchanged maybe a dozen words total with any of his neighbors. He liked it that way. Anonymous. Quiet. No one asking questions about why he was home so much, why there was no Mrs. Cole answering the door, why his son's mother was nowhere in the pictures. Now he had a stranger in his guest room and fresh scratches on a door across the street and a feeling in his gut that said this wasn't over. He made coffee because sleep was pointless at this point. Sat at his kitchen island and pulled up his email. Tried to focus on anything that wasn't the sound of water running upstairs or the image of Lena's bare feet on his porch or the way her voice had cracked when she said, "I can't." The shower shut off. Silence settled over the house again, the kind of quiet that used to feel safe and now just felt hollow. Ethan checked the security camera feeds from his phone. He had them installed front and back after his wife died, some paranoid impulse he couldn't quite name. Everything looked normal. Empty street, still trees, no shadowy figures lurking. He scrolled back through the footage from earlier tonight before Lena knocked. His own house showed nothing unusual. On a hunch, he checked the angle that caught part of her property. At 2:47 a.m., he saw it, a figure moving along the side of her house toward the back. Too dark to make out details, but definitely human-shaped, definitely deliberate. The timestamp was 13 minutes before she showed up at his door. His hand tightened on the phone. 13 minutes. She'd been in there with someone trying to break in for 13 minutes before she ran. He saved the footage, sent it to himself via email. Evidence, in case the cops actually cared. Upstairs, he heard a door open, soft footsteps in the hall. Lena appeared at the top of the stairs, changed into different clothes now, leggings and an oversized sweater. Her hair was wet, pulled back from her face. "Couldn't sleep?" Ethan asked. "Didn't try." She came down slowly, like she wasn't sure if she was allowed. "I keep thinking about what might have happened if I'd stayed in bed, if I hadn't heard them. Don't do that to yourself." Easy to say. Fair point. Ethan gestured to the coffee maker. "Want some?" "Please." He poured her a mug, black, then remembered he should probably ask. "Cream? Sugar? This is fine." They stood on opposite sides of the kitchen island, drinking coffee in the pre-dawn quiet. Outside, the sky was just starting to lighten, that deep blue that came before sunrise. Ethan tried to think of something to say that wasn't, "Are you okay?" because clearly she wasn't, and wasn't, "Everything will be fine," because he had no idea if it would be. Lena spoke first. "I moved here to start over," she said quietly. "Sold everything I had, packed what fit in my car, drove until I found a place that seemed quiet. Safe. I've been here 1 month and someone's already trying to break in. What does that say about my judgment? Says you got unlucky. Wrong place, wrong time. Or maybe I'm being followed." The way she said it, flat and certain, made Ethan's stomach drop. By who? Lena wrapped both hands around her mug, stared into it like it might have answers. "My ex-husband. Maybe. I don't know. I didn't tell him where I was going when I left. Changed my number, closed my old social media accounts. But Tyler's, he's persistent, and he doesn't like losing." Losing what? Control. She looked up at him then, and the exhaustion in her eyes was the kind that went deeper than one sleepless night. "We were together 6 years, married for 3. It started small. Checking my phone, wanting to know where I was all the time. Then it got bigger, who I could see, what I could wear, when I could leave the house. By the end, I was barely a person anymore, just his." Ethan felt something cold settle in his chest. "Did he hurt you?" "Not physically. Well, once, but..." She shook her head. "It's complicated. He'd say things, do things, then tell me I was overreacting, that I was too sensitive, that I should be grateful he cared so much. And for a long time I believed him." "What changed?" "He pushed me into a wall during an argument. I hit my head hard enough to see stars, and when I looked at him after, he was smiling, like he'd won something. Lena's voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. I left the next day while he was at work. Didn't take much, didn't leave a note, just got in my car and drove. How long ago? 2 months. Spent the first month in a motel 3 states away, working remote and trying to figure out my next move. Found this place on Craigslist. Landlord was flexible about the lease. Thought I'd finally found somewhere he couldn't find me. Ethan set down his coffee cup. You think he's the one who tried to break in? I don't know, maybe. Or maybe I'm being paranoid. She laughed, brittle and sharp. Hard to tell the difference anymore. Security cameras caught someone by your house at 2:47 a.m. I can send you the footage. Her face went pale. You have cameras? Front and back. Installed them a couple years ago. The angle catches part of your property. Can I see it? Ethan pulled up his phone, navigated to the saved clip, handed it over. Lena watched it 3 times, her expression getting tighter with each loop. I can't tell if that's him, she said finally. It's too dark, but the height looks right. And the way he moves... She stopped, handed the phone back. I'm probably just projecting. Or you're reading patterns you've learned to recognize. She looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time since sitting down. You're being incredibly kind about this. Most people would have sent me home with a number for a locksmith. Ethan shrugged. I'm not most people. Clearly. They drank their coffee. Outside, the sky was shifting from blue to gray, the kind of overcast morning that promised rain later. Ethan checked his watch. 5:15. His son wouldn't be up for another hour at least. Max had never been a morning person, not even as a baby. You have a kid, Lena said, following his gaze. I've seen him, 8 or 9. 7. Max. He's cute, looks like you. Poor kid. That surprised a laugh out of her, small but genuine. I'm serious. Good-looking father. He's probably going to break hearts when he's older. Ethan didn't know what to do with that, so he changed the subject. What do you do for work? Graphic design, freelance mostly, logo work, website layouts, that kind of thing. It pays enough to keep the lights on. She paused. What about you? I'm guessing you're not hurting for money based on the house. I run a software company, cloud infrastructure, enterprise solutions. We got lucky with timing. Luck or skill? Both, probably. Ethan refilled his coffee. Started it with a friend from college 10 years ago. First few years were brutal. Lived on ramen and caffeine, slept in the office more than my apartment. Then we landed a big client. Things snowballed. Now we have 200 employees, and I spend most of my time in meetings I'd rather not be in. But you're successful. Depends on how you measure success. Lena tilted her head, studying him. That sounded bitter. Did it? Ethan hadn't meant it to, but yeah, maybe it had. My wife used to say I was better at building companies than relationships. Turns out she was right. Used to? She died 2 years ago, car accident. The words came out flat, rehearsed, because he'd said them enough times that they didn't feel real anymore. Just facts. Data points. His wife was dead. He was raising their son alone. Life went on whether you were ready for it or not. Lena's face softened. I'm sorry. Yeah, me too. They sat with that for a moment, the weight of their respective damages hanging in the air between them. Ethan wondered if this was what connection looked like now. 2 broken people drinking coffee at dawn, sharing the things they usually kept locked down. I should let you get ready for your day, Lena said eventually. I'm sure you have work, and I've already taken up enough of your time. You're not going back to that house alone. Ethan, not up for debate. Mutt. He stood, rinsed his mug in the sink. I'm calling a locksmith this morning, getting your back door fixed properly. New deadbolt, maybe a chain. And you're staying here until that's done. I can't. Yes, you can. I have the space, and my kid will be thrilled to have someone new to show off his Lego collection to. Besides, it's Friday. He's with his grandmother this weekend. You can have the guest room through Sunday. Give yourself time to breathe. Lena looked at him like he'd just offered her something impossible. Why are you doing this? Because someone tried to break into your house, and you shouldn't have to deal with that alone. Ethan met her eyes, held them. And because I know what it's like to feel like you're drowning and no one's throwing you a rope. She nodded slowly, something in her expression cracking open. Okay, thank you. You already thanked me. I'll probably keep doing it. Upstairs, a door opened. Small footsteps padded across the landing, and then Max appeared at the top of the stairs, blonde hair sticking up in every direction, rubbing his eyes. Dad, who are you talking to? Morning, buddy. Come say hi to our guest. Max came down, gave Lena a shy wave. Hi. Hi, Lena said, smiling for the first time since she'd shown up on the porch. I'm Lena. I live across the street. Are you having breakfast with us? She glanced at Ethan, uncertain. She is, Ethan confirmed. What do you want? Pancakes? Yes. Max scrambled onto one of the bar stools. Can I help? Always. They made pancakes, the three of them, and it was surprisingly easy. Max chattered about school and his friend Tyler's birthday party next week and how he was learning multiplication now, and did Lena know that 7 times 8 was 56? Lena listened, asked questions, laughed at Max's jokes. Ethan cooked and watched them and tried not to think too hard about how normal this felt. After breakfast, Max went to get dressed, and Lena helped clear the table despite Ethan's protests. He's a great kid, she said, loading plates into the dishwasher. He is, takes after his mom. I doubt that's entirely true. Ethan's phone buzzed, email from his assistant asking about a meeting on Monday. He typed out a quick response, then pulled up the locksmith's number he'd looked up earlier. I'm going to get that door fixed today, he said. You can come with me or stay here. Your call. I'll come. Should probably face it sooner rather than later. They went over around 10 after Ethan dropped Max at his grandmother's. The locksmith met them there, a gruff older guy who took one look at the scratches on the back door and whistled low. Someone really wanted in, he said. Can you fix it? Ethan asked. Sure. Going to recommend upgrading the whole setup, though. This lock's older than my first marriage. I'll put in something stronger. Add a chain for good measure. Do it. While the locksmith worked, Ethan walked the perimeter of Lena's property, checking windows, looking for other signs of tampering. Everything seemed secure except the back door. When he came around front again, Lena was sitting on the porch steps, arms wrapped around her knees. Anything? She asked. Just the one entry point. But I think you should consider a security system. Cameras, at least. I can't afford that right now. I can. She looked up sharply. No. Lena, I already owe you for the locksmith. I'm not letting you buy me a security system. It's not about owing me. It's about making sure you're safe. I don't take charity. It's not charity. It's... Ethan stopped, recalibrated. Look, I know we just met. I know this is all happening fast and probably feels weird, but someone tried to break into your house last night, and whether it was your ex or a random opportunist, the fact is you're not safe here without better security. So let me help. You can pay me back if it makes you feel better, but let me help. Lena stared at him for a long moment, jaw tight. Then her shoulders sagged. I hate this. Hate what? Needing help, feeling weak, all of it. Needing help doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. Easy for you to say. You're the one giving it, not taking it. Fair point. Ethan sat down next to her on the steps, left a careful foot of space between them. After my wife died, I spent 6 months trying to do everything myself. Take care of Max, run the company, manage the house, all of it. I was drowning, but I wouldn't admit it. Wouldn't ask for help because I thought that meant I was failing. Then one day, I passed out at work from exhaustion, and my business partner sat me down and told me I was being an idiot. Said accepting help wasn't weakness, it was survival. What did you do? Hired a nanny. Let my assistant handle more of the day-to-day. Started actually using my support system instead of pretending I didn't need one. He glanced at her. Hardest thing I've ever done, asking for that help. But Max needed a father who wasn't running on empty, and my company needed a CEO who could function. So I swallowed my pride and I asked. Lena was quiet for a moment. How long did it take? To feel okay again? I'll let you know when I get there. She laughed, surprised. That honest, huh? Seemed appropriate given the circumstances. The locksmith called from inside, said he was done. They went back in, inspected the new deadbolt and chain. Solid, secure, the kind of setup that would take serious tools to bypass. Anyone tries this again, they're going to make a lot of noise doing it, the locksmith said, which should give you time to call 911. Thank you, Lena said quietly. After the locksmith left, they stood in her kitchen, the space feeling safer, but not quite safe. I should probably let you get back to your day, Lena said. I'm sure you have work. Nothing that can't wait. Ethan checked his watch. Have you eaten lunch? Not hungry. That wasn't the question. She sighed. No, I haven't eaten lunch. Come on, there's a decent sandwich place 2 blocks over. My treat. Ethan, not up for debate. They walked to the deli, ordered sandwiches, sat outside despite the gray sky because the fresh air felt necessary. Lena picked at her food, eating mechanically, like she'd forgotten what appetite felt like. Tell me about your design work, Ethan said, trying to pull her out of her head. What do you want to know? How'd you get into it? Art school? Figured out I was better at making logos than painting, switched majors junior year. Started freelancing after graduation, built up enough clients to go full-time. She took a bite of sandwich, chewed slowly. It's not glamorous, but I like it. Get to work from home, set my own hours. Good for someone who doesn't like people very much. You don't like people? I like them fine in small doses, but Tyler... She stopped, set down her sandwich. He didn't like me having friends. Said they were a bad influence, that they didn't understand our relationship. So I stopped seeing them. And after a while, it was easier to just not have friends at all. What about now? Now I'm relearning how to be a person who exists outside of someone else's control. She met his eyes. It's harder than I expected. Ethan understood that more than he'd admit. After Caroline died, he'd had to relearn how to be a person who existed without her. The routines they'd built together, the shared rhythm of their lives, all of it gone, and he'd had to figure out how to fill that space without falling apart. Give yourself time, he said. You've been on your own, 2 months? That's nothing. You're still figuring out what your life looks like now. What if I never figure it out? Then you keep trying anyway. They finished lunch, walked back to her house. The new lock gleamed in the afternoon light. Lena stood on her porch, keys in hand, not quite ready to go inside. Thank you, she said. For everything. The lock, the food, letting me crash at your place last night. You didn't have to do any of that. I know. So why did you? Ethan considered the question, tried to find an answer that wasn't just because I know what it's like to be scared, or because you knocked on my door and I couldn't turn you away. Because everyone needs someone in their corner, he said finally, and it looked like you could use one. Lena's eyes went bright, like she might cry, but she blinked it back. Well, you're good at it. At what? Being in someone's corner. She went inside, locked the door behind her, both the deadbolt and the new chain. Ethan waited until he heard them click into place, then walked back across the street to his too big, too empty house. His phone rang as he was unlocking his front door, his mother calling to confirm she was keeping Max for the weekend, and did Ethan need anything? I'm fine, Mom. You always say that. Because it's always true. Ethan. I'll pick him up Sunday afternoon. Tell him to brush his teeth. He hung up before she could press further, went inside, locked his own door. The house felt quieter than usual, the kind of silence that used to be a refuge and now just felt lonely. His laptop was still on the kitchen counter where he'd left it that morning. Work emails piled up, meetings to reschedule, decisions to make. He opened his email, stared at the screen, closed it again. Instead, he pulled up the security footage from last night, watched the dark figure move along Lena's house one more time, tried to see details that weren't there, height, build, anything that might confirm or deny whether this was her ex-husband. The video didn't give him answers, just more questions. His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Hey, it's Lena. Got your number from the locksmith's invoice. Just wanted to say thanks again. And if the offer to stay through the weekend is still open, I think I'll take it. If that's okay. Ethan stared at the message, something warm unfolding in his chest that he didn't quite know what to do with. It's open. Come over whenever. Three dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Now okay? I know it's early, but this house feels different after last night. Doors unlocked. She showed up 10 minutes later, same backpack as before, looking steadier but still fragile around the edges. Thank you, she said as she stepped inside. You're going to wear that word out. Probably. Ethan showed her back to the guest room, reminded her where everything was. Then, because he didn't know what else to do, he offered to make dinner. You don't have to do that, Lena said. I'm cooking anyway. You want pasta? Yeah, that sounds good. They cooked together, not quite comfortable, but getting there. Lena chopped vegetables while Ethan handled the sauce, and they talked about nothing important. Favorite movies, best pizza toppings, whether cats or dogs were better pets. Surface-level stuff that felt safe. Dinner was good. Easy. The kind of meal Ethan used to have all the time before Caroline died, before eating became just another task on the list. After, they cleaned up together, loaded the dishwasher, wiped down counters. Lena's phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at it, and her whole body went rigid. What is it? Ethan asked. She picked up the phone with shaking hands, turned it so he could see the screen. Unknown number, text message, 5 words. I know where you are. Ethan took the phone from her hands before she could drop it. The text sat there on the screen, 5 words that turned the warm kitchen cold. He read it twice, then checked the timestamp. Sent 4 minutes ago. Block the number, he said, keeping his voice level even though his pulse had kicked into high gear. What if it's him? What if blocking it makes him angrier? What if it's not him and you're letting some random asshole get in your head? Ethan handed the phone back. Either way, you don't engage. Block it. Screenshot it first for records, then block it. Lena's hands were shaking so badly she almost couldn't work the touchscreen. Ethan watched her fumble with it, watched the fear crawl back into her expression, and felt something sharp twist in his chest. They'd had one good evening, one normal meal, and now this. She managed to screenshot the message, then blocked the number, set the phone face down on the counter like it might bite her. Maybe I should go to the police, she said quietly. With what? An unknown number and a vague threat? They'll tell you to document it and call back if it escalates. So what am I supposed to do? Just wait around for him to... She stopped, pressed both hands to her face. This is exactly what he wants. Me scared, me jumping at shadows. He's probably sitting somewhere right now loving this. Ethan leaned against the counter, trying to think past the anger. Do you have any mutual friends? Anyone who might have told him where you are? I cut everyone off when I left, changed my number, deleted all my social media. The only people who know where I am are my landlord and my mom, and she wouldn't... Lena stopped, something flickering across her face. Oh no. What? My mom. She's been calling me, wanting to know if I'm okay, asking where I'm staying. I've been dodging her because she never liked that I left Tyler. She thought I was being dramatic, that all marriages have rough patches. Lena grabbed her phone again, pulled up her call log. She called 3 times yesterday. I didn't answer. What if she gave him my number? Would she do that? If he asked nicely enough? If he played the concerned husband routine? Lena's laugh was bitter. Yeah, she absolutely would. Ethan straightened. Call her, right now. Ask her directly if she's been in contact with him. She'll lie. Maybe. But you'll know from how she sounds. Lena stared at her phone like it was a live grenade. Then she pulled up her mom's contact, hit call, put it on speaker. It rang 4 times before a woman's voice answered, bright and false. Lena, sweetheart, I was starting to worry. You haven't been answering. Hi, Mom. Lena's voice was tight. I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth. Have you talked to Tyler? A pause. Too long. Why would you ask me that? That's not an answer. Honey, I don't understand why you're being so hostile. Mom, yes or no? Have you talked to Tyler since I left? Another pause, and then her mother sighed, the sound crackling through the speaker. He called me last week. He was worried about you, said you'd left without any explanation, and he just wanted to make sure you were safe. Lena closed her eyes. What did you tell him? Nothing. I said I didn't know where you were, which was true at the time. At the time. Well, you called me on Tuesday and mentioned you'd found a place, and I didn't give him your address, Lena. I just said you were somewhere in the Midwest and you seemed to be doing okay. Did you give him my new number? He asked, but I said I didn't have it, which was also true. You never gave it to me directly. I just had it from your call. Ethan watched Lena's face go pale, watched her grip the phone so hard her knuckles went white. You told him I was in the Midwest, Lena said slowly. Did you mention anything else? The city? The state? Maybe I mentioned you said something about oak trees outside your window, but that's not Lena, honey. He's your husband. He has a right to know you're okay. He's not my husband anymore. We're separated, and you had no right to tell him anything. Don't take that tone with me. I'm your mother. I'm allowed to be concerned. Concerned would be asking me what I need. This is... Lena stopped, breathing hard. I have to go. Lena, wait. She hung up, set the phone down carefully, and stood there trembling. Ethan gave her a minute, watching her try to pull herself back together and failing. Oak trees, she said finally. I told her about the street name, Oakview Lane, and the Midwest. He could narrow it down from that if he tried hard enough. That's still a lot of ground to cover. You don't know Tyler. When he wants something, he doesn't stop until he gets it. She looked at Ethan, eyes wide. The break-in attempt. The text. What if he's already here? Then we make sure he can't get to you. How? You can't watch me 24/7. You have a life, a kid, a company to run. I can't ask you to... Stop. Ethan moved closer, not touching her, but close enough that she had to look at him. You're not asking, I'm offering. And yeah, I have responsibilities, but none of them are more important than making sure someone doesn't get hurt on my watch. Why do you even care? You don't know me. I know enough. Lena shook her head, something between laughter and tears catching in her throat. You're either the best person I've ever met or the worst judge of character. Probably both. That surprised a real laugh out of her, shaky but genuine. She wiped her eyes, took a breath that sounded like it hurt. Okay, so what do we do? Ethan pulled out his phone, started typing. First, you forward me that text and any others you get. Second, we document everything. Screenshots, timestamps, the whole thing. Third, you file for a restraining order on Monday. I know a lawyer who can help. I can't afford a lawyer. He owes me a favor. Don't worry about it. Ethan, not up for debate. He sent off the email to his lawyer, then pulled up his security camera app. I'm also going to install cameras at your place. Front, back, side entrance. They'll feed to an app on your phone so you can see what's happening even when you're not there. That's expensive. So's my coffee habit. We all have our vices. Lena stared at him. I don't understand you. Join the club. They stood there in the kitchen, the dishwasher humming through its cycle, the house quiet around them. Outside, the sky had darkened fully, street lamps casting yellow pools on the pavement. Ethan checked his watch. 8:30. Too early for bed, too late to pretend this was still a normal evening. You want to watch something? He asked. TV, movie, whatever? Might help get your mind off things. I don't think I can focus on anything right now. Fair enough. Lena picked up her phone, checked it compulsively, set it back down. I should probably try to sleep. Long day. Guest room's yours. She nodded, grabbed her backpack from where she'd left it by the stairs, stopped halfway up, turned back. Thank you. I know I keep saying it, but I mean it. She paused, searching for words. You're giving me something I forgot existed. What's that? Hope that not everyone's terrible. She went upstairs before Ethan could respond, and he stood there in his empty kitchen feeling like he'd been punched in the chest. Hope that not everyone's terrible. What kind of life had she been living? That basic decency felt like a revelation. He checked the locks, set the alarm, did his nightly routine on autopilot. Upstairs he could hear water running, Lena in the bathroom, getting ready for bed. The house felt different with someone else in it, less empty. He didn't know if that was good or bad yet. His phone buzzed, text from his business partner, Jake. Board meeting got moved to Tuesday. You good with that? Fine. You sound thrilled. Just tired. Everything okay? Ethan stared at the message, trying to figure out how to answer that. Was everything okay? His neighbor was being stalked by her ex-husband. Someone had tried to break into her house, and he'd somehow appointed himself her protector despite barely knowing her. No, everything was definitely not okay. Yeah. Talk Monday. He put the phone away, headed upstairs to his own room, past the guest room on the way. The door was cracked open, and he could see Lena sitting on the bed, staring at her phone. She looked small, young, scared. Ethan kept walking, closed his own door, tried to sleep. It didn't work. His brain wouldn't shut off, kept cycling through the same questions. Who was Tyler Hart? What did he look like? How far would he go to get Lena back? At midnight, Ethan gave up on sleep and went back downstairs. Made tea this time instead of coffee, stood at the kitchen window looking out at Lena's house across the street. Dark windows. New lock. Damage already done. His phone lit up on the counter. Security camera alert, movement detected. Ethan's stomach dropped. He pulled up the app, switched to the live feed from his front camera. A car had pulled up outside Lena's house. Dark sedan, windows tinted. As he watched, the driver's door opened and someone got out. Male, average height, wearing a baseball cap pulled low. The figure walked up to Lena's front door, tried the handle, found it locked. Stood there for a moment, just looking at the house, then pulled out a phone and started typing. Ethan was already moving, taking the stairs 2 at a time. He knocked on the guest room door, kept his voice low. Lena, you awake? The door opened immediately. She was still dressed, looked like she hadn't even tried to sleep. What's wrong? Someone's at your house right now. I need you to check your phone. Her face went white, but she grabbed her phone from the nightstand. A new message lit up the screen, same unknown number she'd blocked earlier, which meant he'd switched numbers. Nice new lock. Won't matter. Oh my God, Lena whispered. Stay here. Ethan was already heading back down the stairs, Lena right behind him despite his instruction. What are you doing? Getting a better look at this guy. Ethan, don't. But he was already at the front door, already disabling the alarm and stepping out onto his porch. Across the street, the figure turned at the sound, and even in the dim light, Ethan could see the moment recognition clicked. Not recognition of Ethan specifically, but recognition that someone was watching, someone was interfering. The man got back in his car, engine starting. Ethan pulled out his phone, tried to get a shot of the license plate, but the car was already moving, taillights disappearing down the street before he could focus the camera. Damn it! Lena was in the doorway, arms wrapped around herself. Was that him? I don't know, maybe. Couldn't see his face clearly enough. Ethan came back inside, locked the door, reset the alarm. But whoever it was, they're gone now. They'll come back. Probably. You're not making me feel better. Wasn't trying to. I'm trying to be realistic. Ethan pulled up the security footage, scrolled back to when the car first appeared. I got partial plates. Might be enough for the cops to work with. Lena moved beside him, watched the footage over his shoulder. When the figure appeared on screen, walking up to her door, she made a sound that was half gasp, half sob. That's him. That's Tyler. You're sure? I'm sure. The way he walks, the way he stands. I'd know him anywhere. Her voice cracked. He's here. Found me. Ethan saved the footage, sent it to his own email, then pulled up the non-emergency police line. I'm calling this in. They won't do anything. Maybe not tonight, but it's documentation. Paper trail matters. The dispatcher took the report with the same bureaucratic detachment as before. Possible prowler, no forced entry, victim safe inside a neighbor's home. An officer would swing by in the morning to take statements. Ethan thanked her, hung up, resisted the urge to throw his phone across the room. Paper trail, he said flatly. Lena had sunk down onto the couch, phone clutched in both hands. He's not going to stop. You understand that, right? Tyler doesn't give up. He'll keep coming back until... She stopped, couldn't finish the sentence. Ethan sat down next to her, leaving space but not much. Until what? Until he gets what he wants, which is me, scared and small and back under his control. She looked at Ethan, eyes red. Or until someone makes him stop. Someone's going to make him stop. Who? The police don't care. The legal system moves at a glacial pace, and I can't fight him. Every time I try to stand up to him, he just gets worse. So don't fight him alone. Lena laughed, sharp and broken. What are you going to do, Ethan? Follow me everywhere? Sleep on my couch? You have a life. Yeah, and part of that life now includes making sure my neighbor doesn't get terrorized by her psycho ex-husband. I'm not your responsibility. No, you're not. But I'm making you my problem anyway, so get used to it. They sat in the quiet, nothing but the sound of the heating system kicking on and Lena's ragged breathing. Ethan tried to think of something comforting to say, and came up empty. Comfort required lies right now, and he'd already decided he wasn't going to lie to her. I'm scared, Lena said finally. Not just of Tyler, of this. Of letting someone help me, letting someone see how badly I've screwed up my life. Of what happens when you realize I'm not worth all this trouble. That's not going to happen. You don't know that. Yeah, I do. Ethan shifted to face her. You want to know what I see when I look at you? I see someone who left an abusive relationship with basically nothing, started over in a strange city, built a life from scratch. That's not screwing up. That's survival. Survival would be not getting found. He didn't find you because you messed up. He found you because he's obsessive and your mother sold you out. Neither of those things are your fault. Lena's chin trembled. I should have known better than to trust her. Hindsight's always perfect. You were trying to maintain a relationship with your mother. That's normal, human. It was stupid. It was hope. Ethan let that sit for a moment. And hope's never stupid, even when it bites you in the ass. That got a watery smile out of her. You're surprisingly philosophical for a software CEO. I contain multitudes. Lena's phone buzzed. Another message, different unknown number. I saw you watching. Tell your boyfriend he can't protect you forever. Ethan read it over her shoulder, felt his jaw tighten. Forward that to me, and block this number too. He'll just get another one. So we'll keep blocking them. He wants to play games. We can play games. This isn't a game to him. This is... Lena stopped, something shifting in her expression. He thinks you're my boyfriend. So? So he's going to come after you too. That's what he does. When I had friends, when I had coworkers he thought were too friendly, he'd make their lives hell until they backed off. He's going to try to scare you away. Good luck to him. Ethan, I'm serious. He's not stable. If he thinks you're between him and what he wants, he won't stop at property damage or creepy texts. He'll escalate. Then let him escalate. I've dealt with worse than some controlling asshole with boundary issues. Lena looked at him like he was insane. Have you? Have you really? Ethan thought about the months after Caroline died. The reporters camped outside his house trying to get a statement. The conspiracy theorists online who decided her accident was somehow suspicious. The business rivals who tried to use his grief as leverage. Yeah, he dealt with worse. I can handle myself, he said simply. That's not the point. The point is you shouldn't have to. Neither should you, but here we are. Lena set her phone down, face up this time, like she was daring it to buzz again. I don't know what I did to deserve you showing up in my life, but I'm trying really hard not to question it. Probably smart. They sat there until nearly 2 a.m, neither one willing to admit they were too wired to sleep. Ethan made more tea. Lena paced the living room, checking her phone compulsively, flinching at every small sound. When she finally went back upstairs, Ethan stayed on the couch, phone in hand, watching the security feeds like Tyler might materialize out of thin air. He didn't. The street stayed empty. But Ethan didn't sleep anyway, just dozed in and out, jerking awake every time his phone vibrated with a camera alert. A cat crossing the yard, a car passing by. Normal neighborhood things that felt sinister at 3 a.m. Morning came gray and cold. Ethan made coffee, stood at the kitchen window watching Lena's house like the answers might be written on the siding. His phone rang just after 7. Unknown number. He answered it anyway, some instinct telling him to. Yeah. Is this Ethan Cole? That's... Male voice, smooth, confident. Who's asking? I think you know who. I saw you last night. Standing on your porch like some kind of hero. Very noble. Boss. Mate. A pause. How long have you been sleeping with my wife? Ethan's grip on the phone tightened. I'm not sleeping with anyone. And she's not your wife anymore. See, that's where you're wrong. Lena and I, we're taking a break. That's all this is. A rough patch. She'll come back when she's ready. She left you because you're abusive. Tyler laughed, and there was something cold in it. Abusive, that's a strong word. I was protective, maybe a little overprotective, but that's because I love her. Someone had to look out for her. By controlling every aspect of her life? By keeping her safe, which is more than you can do, Mr. Cole. I know who you are. Looked you up. Software billionaire, widower, single dad. Very impressive. But money and good intentions don't stop someone who's determined. Is that a threat? It's a fact. Lena belongs with me. And whatever you think is happening between you two, it's temporary. She'll see that eventually. Or maybe she'll finally realize she deserves better than a stalker with control issues. Another laugh. Big words from someone who's known her for what, 2 days? You don't know her. You don't know what she needs. But I do. And I'm going to give it to her, whether she thinks she wants it or not. The line went dead. Ethan stood there, phone still pressed to his ear, rage simmering under his skin. 2 minutes. He'd talked to Tyler Hart for 2 minutes and already wanted to put his fist through a wall. Behind him, footsteps on the stairs. Lena appeared in the kitchen doorway, hair pulled back, face pale. I heard your phone ring. Was that? Yeah. What did he say? Ethan repeated the conversation, watching Lena's expression shift from fear to resignation to something that might have been anger. He called me his wife, she said quietly. We haven't been together in 2 months, and he still thinks he owns me. He doesn't. Try telling him that. I did. Didn't take. Lena moved to the coffee maker, poured herself a mug with shaking hands. He's going to keep pushing until something breaks. That's what he does. He pushes and pushes until you're so tired of fighting that giving in seems easier. So we don't give in. Easy to say. Didn't say it was easy, just said we're not doing it. She turned to look at him, coffee cup halfway to her lips. Why are you so calm about this? He threatened you. He's clearly unhinged. Most people would be backing away right now. I'm not most people. I'm starting to see that. Lena took a sip of coffee, winced like it burned. The officer's supposed to come by this morning to take statements about last night. I'll be there. You don't have to. Stop saying that. I'm going to be there. The officer showed up at 9. Young guy who looked fresh out of the academy and took their statements with the enthusiasm of someone filling out DMV paperwork. He looked at the security footage Ethan showed him, made notes about the license plate, asked Lena if she felt safe. Define safe, Lena said. The officer shifted uncomfortably. Ma'am, I understand this is stressful, but without evidence of a direct threat or physical harm, there's not much we can do at this stage. The text messages are concerning, but they're not explicitly threatening. The person on your property last night didn't attempt to break in. Legally, we can't act on what someone might do. So I'm supposed to wait until he actually hurts me? I'm not saying that. I'm saying we need more to build a case. Have you considered filing for a restraining order? I'm doing that Monday. Good. That's good. The officer closed his notebook. In the meantime, keep documenting everything. Every text, every call, every sighting. And if he makes contact again, call 911 immediately. After he left, Lena sat on her porch steps, head in her hands. Ethan sat down next to her, close enough their shoulders almost touched. That was useless, she said. Yeah. They're not going to help. Probably not. So what do we do? Ethan pulled out his phone, started typing. We install those security cameras today. We get you that restraining order Monday. And we make sure you're never alone long enough for Tyler to try anything. That's not sustainable. Don't care. Lena looked at him, something shifting in her expression. You're really not going to back down, are you? Nope. Even though this is insane and we barely know each other and I'm clearly a disaster? Especially because of that. She laughed, surprised. You're either crazy or the best thing that's happened to me in years. Could be both. They spent the rest of the day installing cameras. Ethan ordered them rush delivery, paid extra for same day, and by afternoon they were mounting them around Lena's property. Front door, back door, side entrance. 3 angles, all feeding to an app on both their phones. Lena watched him work, handing him tools, asking questions. You know a lot about security systems for a software guy. Picked it up after Caroline died, got paranoid about Max's safety. That's not paranoia. That's being a good father. Tell that to my therapist. That surprised her. You're in therapy? Was. For about 6 months after Caroline. Helped some. Ethan secured the last camera, climbed down from the ladder. Still have bad days, but at least now I know what they are instead of just white-knuckling through. Does Max know? About your wife, I mean. He was 5 when it happened. Knows his mom's gone, knows she's not coming back. We talk about her sometimes. He asks questions. Ethan tested the camera feed on his phone, made sure it was working. It's not perfect, but we manage. Sounds like you're doing better than managing. Some days, he met her eyes. Some days I'm just going through the motions and hoping no one notices. I get that. They went back inside, tested all the feeds, made sure everything was recording properly. Tyler hadn't shown up again, but Ethan didn't take that as a good sign. Guys like Tyler didn't just give up. They waited. They planned. Lena's phone buzzed. She checked it, face tightening. My lawyer called back. She can see me Monday at 10. Good. She said restraining orders can take a while to process. Couple weeks, minimum. So we wait. And in the meantime, Ethan checked his watch, 4:30. In the meantime, we get dinner and pretend today was just a normal Saturday. Nothing about today was normal. Then we pretend anyway. They ordered pizza, ate it on Ethan's couch, with a movie playing that neither of them really watched. Lena kept checking her phone. Ethan kept checking the camera feeds. Normal was apparently relative. At 10, Lena's phone rang. Her mother's number. She stared at it, didn't answer. You should talk to her, Wolf, Ethan said. Why? So she can defend Tyler again? So you can tell her exactly what her information cost you. Lena answered on the last ring, didn't put it on speaker this time. Ethan could hear her mother's voice, high and defensive, but not the words. Lena listened for maybe 30 seconds, then cut in. No, you don't get to do this. You don't get to tell Tyler where I am and then act like you were helping. Her voice was steel. He showed up at my house last night. He's been sending threatening texts. He called my neighbor this morning. This is your fault. More noise from the other end. Lena closed her eyes. I don't care if you thought you were doing the right thing. You weren't. You chose him over me. So here's what's going to happen. You're not going to contact me again. You're not going to give Tyler any more information. And if he asks, you're going to tell him you haven't heard from me. Do you understand? A pause. Then Lena hung up, set the phone down carefully, and burst into tears. Ethan didn't think, just moved, pulled her into a hug. She fell apart against his chest, sobbing hard enough that her whole body shook. He held her through it, one hand in her hair, the other around her shoulders, and didn't say anything because there was nothing to say that would help. Eventually she pulled back, wiped her face with her sleeve. Sorry, I don't usually... It's fine. It's not fine. I just cried all over you. Won't be the first time. Max is a champion crier when he's upset. That surprised a wet laugh out of her. I'm a mess. Yeah, so am I. We'll figure it out. They stayed up too late that night, neither one wanting to admit they were avoiding sleep. Lena eventually disappeared upstairs around midnight, and Ethan crashed on the couch with his phone in his hand, camera feeds pulled up, waiting for something that didn't come. Sunday morning arrived gray and wet, rain drumming against the windows, and Ethan woke with a crick in his neck and 3 missed calls from his mother. He called her back while making coffee, phone wedged between his shoulder and ear. You were supposed to pick up Max yesterday afternoon, she said instead of hello. I said Sunday afternoon, today. You said Saturday. Ethan closed his eyes, tried to remember the conversation. Maybe he had said Saturday. The last few days were bleeding together. Sorry, Mom. I'll be there by noon. Is everything all right? You sound distracted. Just dealing with some stuff, nothing major. Ethan, I'll see you at noon. He hung up before she could press, drained his coffee, and headed upstairs to shower. Passed the guest room on the way back and heard water running. Lena was already up. He got dressed, checked his phone. No new messages, no camera alerts, nothing. The quiet felt wrong somehow, like the eye of a storm. Lena appeared downstairs 20 minutes later, hair still damp, wearing jeans and a sweater that looked too big for her. She'd lost weight recently, Ethan realized. Not enough to be obvious at first glance, but enough that her clothes hung loose. "You're picking up Max today," she said. "Yeah, noon. I should probably go back to my place, give you guys some space." "No." She frowned. "Ethan, Tyler's still out there. You're staying here until we get that restraining order sorted, at minimum. That could be weeks." "Then you're staying for weeks." Lena opened her mouth to argue, closed it again. "What about Max? You can't just spring a house guest on him without explanation. He's 7. I'll tell him you're staying with us for a bit because your house needs repairs. He'll accept it and move on." "Kids aren't that simple." "Mine is." Ethan poured her coffee, slid it across the counter. "Look, I get that this is weird. I get that you're not used to people helping without expecting something back. But I need you to trust me on this, okay? You're safer here." Lena took the coffee, wrapped both hands around it. "I don't know how to do this." "Do what?" "Accept help. Rely on someone. All of it." She stared into her mug. "Tyler spent years convincing me I was incapable of taking care of myself, that I needed him. And even though I know that was manipulation, there's still this voice in my head saying he was right, that I can't make it on my own. You've been on your own for 2 months and you're still standing. That's proof enough." "Is it? Because from where I'm sitting, I ran away, got found, and immediately became someone else's problem. You're not a problem. I'm literally hiding in your house from my ex-husband. Temporary situation, not a character flaw." Lena looked at him over the rim of her mug, something tired and grateful in her expression. "You're very determined to see the best in me. Just calling it like I see it." They ate breakfast in comfortable silence. Then Lena insisted on cleaning up while Ethan got ready to leave. He checked the camera feeds one more time before heading out. Everything quiet, everything normal. It made him nervous. "Lock the door behind me," he said. "Alarm code is 4723. Don't answer if anyone knocks." "I know the drill." "Text me if anything feels off." "Ethan." Lena caught his arm. "I'll be fine for 2 hours. Go get your son." He went, but he didn't like it. Drove to his mother's house with half his attention on the road and half on his phone, waiting for an alert that didn't come. His mother lived in a suburb 20 minutes away, one of those planned communities where every house looked identical and the HOA had opinions about mailbox colors. Max came running out before Ethan even parked, backpack bouncing, talking at full speed about the movie his grandmother had let him watch. And could they get ice cream on the way home? And his friend Jacob had a new video game. Could he get it too? "Slow down, bud," Ethan said, ruffling his hair. "One question at a time." His mother appeared on the porch, arms crossed. "We need to talk." Ethan's stomach sank. "About what?" "About why you forgot to pick up your son yesterday. About why you've been distracted every time I've called this week. About—" She glanced at Max, lowered her voice. "Can we talk inside for a minute? I really need to get back." 5 minutes, Ethan." He told Max to wait in the car, followed his mother into her kitchen. She rounded on him the second they were alone. "What's going on? And don't tell me nothing, because I know you better than that." Ethan leaned against the counter, trying to figure out how much to say. "There's a situation with one of my neighbors. She's having some trouble with her ex, and I'm helping her deal with it." "What kind of trouble?" "The kind that involves police reports and restraining orders." His mother's face tightened. "Is it dangerous?" "Not for me. For her, yeah, potentially." "So you've inserted yourself into the middle of a domestic situation." "It's not like that." "Then what is it like?" Ethan scrubbed a hand over his face. "She knocked on my door at 3 a.m. because someone was trying to break into her house. What was I supposed to do? Send her away?" "You were supposed to call the police and let them handle it." "I did call the police. They don't care." "So yeah, I'm handling it." "By doing what exactly? Playing bodyguard?" "Ethan, you have a son to think about." "I am thinking about him. I'm thinking I want him to grow up knowing that when someone needs help, you help them, not turn away because it's complicated. His mother softened slightly. I'm not saying don't help. I'm saying be smart about it. You don't know this woman. You don't know what you're getting into. I know enough. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, this sounds like you're using someone else's crisis to avoid dealing with your own stuff. That hit harder than Ethan expected. What stuff? The fact that you've been alone for 2 years and you won't even consider dating. The fact that you work 80-hour weeks and use Max as an excuse not to have a life outside of work and parenting. The fact that you're still punishing yourself for Caroline's death even though it wasn't your fault. We're not doing this right now. When are we going to do it? You won't talk to me. You stopped going to therapy. Mom. Ethan's voice came out harder than he meant it to. I appreciate the concern, but I'm handling things, and I really need to get Max home. She looked like she wanted to argue more, but finally nodded. Fine, but be careful, okay? I don't want you or Max getting hurt because you couldn't walk away from someone else's mess. Ethan didn't answer, just went back outside, got in the car with Max. His son chattered the whole drive home, oblivious to the tension radiating off his father. When they pulled up to the house, Max spotted Lena through the front window and perked up. Is that the lady from the other day? The one who had breakfast with us? Yeah, she's staying with us for a bit. Why? Her house needs some repairs, and she didn't want to stay there while they're being done. Oh, okay. Max unbuckled his seatbelt. Can I show her my Lego spaceship? If she wants to see it, sure. They went inside, and Lena looked up from where she was sitting on the couch with her laptop, smiled when she saw Max. Hey, how was your weekend? Good. I watched a movie, and Grandma made cookies, and oh, do you want to see my Lego spaceship? I built it myself. I'd love to see it. Max grabbed her hand and dragged her upstairs, and Ethan stood in his entryway listening to his son's excited narration and Lena's patient responses and tried not to think about his mother's words. Using someone else's crisis to avoid dealing with your own stuff. Was that what he was doing? He didn't think so. This felt different. This felt necessary. His phone buzzed. Text from Jake. You see the latest investor report? Numbers are down. Ethan had forgotten about work entirely. He pulled up his email, scrolled through the messages he'd been ignoring since Friday. Reports, meetings, decisions that needed to be made. The company he'd built felt like something happening to someone else. He typed back, I'll look at it tonight. You good? You've been MIA. Fine, just dealing with some personal stuff. Want to talk about it? Not particularly. Offer stands. Ethan pocketed his phone, went upstairs. Found Max and Lena in his son's room. Lena sitting cross-legged on the floor, admiring a truly chaotic Lego construction, while Max explained its various features in exhaustive detail. And this part is the hyperdrive, but it's broken right now, so the crew has to fix it, and this is the captain's quarters. And, Dad, Lena thinks my spaceship is cool. It's very cool, Ethan agreed. Lena glanced up at him, something soft in her expression, and Ethan felt that same punch to the chest he'd felt the night before. This was too easy, too comfortable, too much like something he'd lost and didn't know he was allowed to want again. The afternoon passed quietly. Max played while Lena worked on her laptop, and Ethan tried to focus on the investor report Jake had sent. The numbers were down, but not catastrophically. Normal market fluctuation, nothing to panic about. He sent back some notes, scheduled a call for Tuesday, and closed his laptop feeling like he'd accomplished exactly nothing. Dinner was pasta again because Ethan's cooking repertoire was limited, and Max talked through the entire meal about a book his teacher was reading to the class. Lena listened with what seemed like genuine interest, asked questions, laughed at the right parts. She was good with kids, natural in a way that didn't feel forced. After dinner, Max wanted to watch a movie, so they all piled on the couch. Max between them, Lena on one end, Ethan on the other. Some animated thing about talking animals that Ethan had seen 3 times already. Halfway through, Max fell asleep with his head on Lena's shoulder. He does this, Ethan said quietly, gets all worked up and then crashes hard. It's fine. Lena adjusted so Max was more comfortable. He's sweet. He is. Takes after his mom in that regard, too. Stop selling yourself short. I've seen you with him. You're a good father. Ethan didn't know what to do with that, so he just nodded and went back to pretending to watch the movie. When it ended, he carried Max upstairs, got him into pajamas without fully waking him, and tucked him in. By the time he came back down, Lena was in the kitchen washing dishes. You don't have to do that, Ethan said. I know, but I need to feel useful. You're a guest, not a maid. I'm a freeloader who's been living in your house for 3 days. You're someone dealing with a dangerous situation who accepted help. That's different. Lena set down the dish she was washing, turned to face him. Your mother called while you were putting Max to bed. I didn't answer, but she left a voicemail. Said she forgot to mention something, and could you call her back? I'll deal with it tomorrow. She sounded worried. She's always worried. Comes with the territory. Ethan grabbed a dish towel, started drying. She thinks I'm making a mistake helping you. Is she right? No? How do you know? Because mistakes feel different than this. Lena studied him. What does this feel like? Ethan set down the towel, tried to find words for something he hadn't fully articulated even to himself. Like I'm doing something that matters, like I'm not just going through the motions for once. That's a lot of pressure to put on helping your neighbor. Maybe. But it's true anyway. They finished the dishes in silence. Lena's phone had been quiet all day. No texts, no calls, nothing from Tyler. It should have felt like relief, but instead felt like anticipation. The other shoe, waiting to drop. At 10, Lena went upstairs. Ethan stayed down, laptop open, pretending to work while actually watching the security feeds. Everything remained still until just past midnight, when a car rolled slowly down Oakview Lane. Dark sedan, tinted windows. Same one from before. Ethan's pulse kicked up. He watched the car pause in front of Lena's house, idle there for a solid 2 minutes, then continue down the street and disappear around the corner. No one got out. No direct threat. But the message was clear. I'm still here. I'm watching. He saved the footage, sent it to his email, added it to the growing file he was building. Documentation, like the useless cop had said. As if a paper trail would stop someone who'd already demonstrated he didn't care about boundaries. Monday morning came too fast. Ethan woke on the couch again, neck screaming, phone dead on his chest. He plugged it in, checked the time. 7:15. Lena's lawyer appointment was at 10. He needed to shower, needed to wake Max up, needed to figure out how to manage a full day when all he wanted was to keep both of them locked in the house until Tyler gave up or hell froze over. Lena appeared while he was making coffee, already dressed, makeup on, looking more put together than she had any right to after the week they'd had. You slept on the couch again, she said. Yeah. You have a perfectly good bed upstairs. Couch has a better view of the security feeds. She poured herself coffee, leaned against the counter. This can't keep going. You're going to make yourself sick. I'm fine. Ethan, I'm fine, he repeated, with enough edge that she backed off. They got Max ready for school, and Ethan drove him while Lena stayed at the house. When he got back, she was waiting by the door with her purse and jacket. Ready? He asked. As I'll ever be. The lawyer's office was downtown, sleek and professional, the kind of place that charged by the minute. Ethan had called in the favor Sunday night, and Rebecca Chen had agreed to see Lena pro bono as long as Ethan didn't make it a habit of asking. Rebecca was sharp, mid-40s, with the kind of no-nonsense energy that made even Ethan sit up straighter. She listened to Lena's story without interrupting, took notes, asked pointed questions. Do you have documentation of the abuse? Rebecca asked. Not really. He never hit me except that once, and I didn't report it. What about the controlling behavior? Text messages, emails, anything that shows a pattern? I deleted most of it when I left. I just wanted it all gone. Rebecca's expression didn't change, but Ethan could see her calculating. The recent activity helps. The security footage, the texts from unknown numbers, the phone call to Mr. Cole. We can work with that. But I'll be honest, Miss Hart, restraining orders aren't magic. They're a piece of paper. They work when the other party respects legal boundaries. Your ex doesn't sound like someone who will. So what do I do? You file anyway because it gives law enforcement more tools if he violates it. You document everything. You vary your routines, stay vigilant, and you prepare for the possibility that this gets worse before it gets better. Lena's hands were shaking. Ethan reached over, covered one of them with his own. She didn't pull away. Rebecca walked them through the process, explained timelines and hearings and what to expect. By the time they left an hour later, Lena looked wrung out. "That was terrifying, Ethan," she said once they were back in Ethan's car. "Yeah." She basically said the restraining order won't stop him. She said it might not. That's different. Not by much. Lena stared out the window. "I keep thinking about what happens if he shows up when Max is around. What if your son gets caught in the middle of this because I'm staying at your house? Then I'll handle it." "How?" "However I have to." She looked at him. "You say that like it's simple." "It is simple. You're under my roof. That makes you my responsibility. Anyone who wants to get to you goes through me first." Ethan, that's insane. You barely know me." "Keep saying that. Doesn't make it more true." They drove in silence for a while, Lena processing, Ethan watching the rearview mirror more than the road ahead. No dark sedan, no signs of being followed. But that didn't mean Tyler wasn't watching from somewhere else. Ethan's phone rang through the car's speakers, Jake's name on the display. He almost didn't answer, but then remembered the investor report and the Tuesday call in the company he was supposed to be running. "Yeah." "Where are you? We had a 9:30. Ethan's stomach dropped. He'd completely forgotten. "Something came up. I'll be there in 20. "Everything okay?" "Fine, just running late." He hung up, looked at Lena. "I have to go to the office for a few hours." "You okay going back to the house alone?" "I'll be fine. Lock the doors, set the alarm, don't answer for anyone." "I know." He dropped her off, waited until she was inside, and the alarm was set before heading downtown to his office. The building was glass and steel, 17 floors of open-concept workspaces and conference rooms with views of the city. Ethan's office was on the top floor, corner suite, the kind of space that was supposed to make him feel successful and instead just made him feel isolated. Jake was waiting in the conference room, along with 3 other executives Ethan only half recognized. The meeting was supposed to be about quarterly projections, but turned into an interrogation about his recent absence. "You've missed 4 meetings in the last week," Jake said, not unkindly. "People are starting to notice." "I'll catch up." "It's not about catching up, it's about being present. We need you here, Ethan. The company needs you here. I'm dealing with some personal stuff. It'll settle down soon." "What kind of personal stuff?" Ethan looked at the faces around the table, colleagues, some of them friends, all of them expecting an answer that made sense. He didn't have one that wouldn't sound ridiculous. "My neighbor's ex-husband is stalking her, so I've appointed myself her bodyguard," didn't exactly inspire confidence in his decision-making. "Family stuff," he said finally. "I'll handle it." The meeting dragged on another hour, projections, strategies, decisions that felt meaningless compared to making sure Lena didn't get hurt. Ethan contributed when pressed, but mostly just nodded along, half his attention on his phone waiting for an alert from the security cameras. When it finally ended, Jake pulled him aside. "You want to grab lunch? Talk about whatever's actually going on?" "Can't. I need to get back." "Ethan." Jake blocked his path. "I've known you for 12 years. I was at your wedding. I was a pallbearer at Caroline's funeral. So when I say you're not okay, I'm not guessing. What's going on?" Ethan considered lying, considered deflecting, considered a dozen different ways to avoid this conversation. Then he remembered Lena crying on his couch, and the sound of Tyler's voice on the phone, and the way his mother had looked at him yesterday like he was making the biggest mistake of his life. "There's a woman," he started, and Jake's eyebrows shot up. "A woman. Not like that, she's my neighbor. She's being stalked by her ex, and I'm helping her." "Helping her how?" "She's staying at my place until we can get a restraining order sorted. Installing security, documenting everything, making sure she's not alone." Jake processed this. "And you've known her how long?" 5 days. 5. Jesus, Ethan. I know how it sounds. Do you? Because it sounds like you've inserted yourself into a dangerous situation with someone you don't know, and you're using company time to play hero. I'm not playing anything. Someone needed help and I helped. That's it. Is it? Jake crossed his arms. Or is this about you trying to save someone because you couldn't save Caroline? The words hit like a physical blow. Ethan took a step back, jaw tight. That's not what this is. You sure? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're using someone else's crisis as a distraction from the fact that you're still not dealing with your wife's death. My wife died 2 years ago. I've dealt with it. Have you? Because you work constantly, you don't date, you barely have a social life outside of Max, and now suddenly you're housing a stranger and monitoring security cameras at midnight. That's not dealing with grief. That's burying it. Ethan felt something crack inside his chest, something he'd been holding together with pressure and stubbornness and sheer force of will. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? Jake's voice softened. Look, I get it. Helping someone feels good, feels productive, feels like you're in control of something. But you can't fix this woman's life. You can't protect her from her past. And trying to do it anyway is just going to hurt you both. I'm not trying to fix her life. I'm trying to keep her alive long enough to fix it herself. And then what? She gets the restraining order, moves on, and you go back to your empty house and realize you've been using her problems to avoid your own? Ethan didn't have an answer for that. Didn't want to examine it too closely because maybe Jake was right. Maybe he was using this as a distraction. Maybe he was too broken himself to be any good to anyone else. I need to go, he said finally. Ethan, I'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk then. He left before Jake could stop him, took the elevator down to the parking garage, sat in his car for 5 solid minutes, trying to breathe through the anxiety clawing at his throat. His phone buzzed. Text from Lena. Rain started. Staying inside. Everything quiet. He typed back. Be there in 15. The drive back was a blur. Ethan's hands were shaking on the steering wheel, Jake's words echoing in his head. You're using someone else's crisis to avoid dealing with your own stuff. Maybe that was true. Maybe he was a mess masquerading as someone competent. Maybe he had no business trying to help anyone when he could barely keep himself together. But when he pulled up to his house and saw Lena in the window, saw her wave when she spotted his car, something in his chest settled. Whatever his motives were, whatever psychological complications were driving this, one thing was simple. She needed help. He could provide it. Everything else was noise. He was halfway up the walk when the dark sedan pulled up to the curb. Ethan froze. The driver's door opened and Tyler Hart stepped out, and Ethan got his first clear look at the man who'd been terrorizing Lena for months. Average height, fit build, dark hair, clean-shaven. Could have been anyone. Could have been the guy next door. Ethan Cole, Tyler said, smiling like they were old friends. Finally, face to face. Ethan didn't move. Get back in your car. Or what? You'll call the cops? We both know they don't care. Tyler took a step closer, hands in his pockets, casual as anything. I just want to talk to my wife, 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. She's not your wife, and she doesn't want to talk to you. Did she say that? Or are you deciding for her? Tyler's smile widened. See, that's what guys like you don't get. You think you're helping, being the white knight, but really, you're just another man trying to control her, just like me. Only difference is, I'm honest about it. The difference is, I'll walk away when she asks me to. You won't. Won't I? Tyler pulled his hands from his pockets, and Ethan tensed, but the man just shrugged. You don't know me. You don't know what I'm capable of, but you're about to find out. Behind Ethan, the front door opened, Lena's voice sharp with fear. Tyler, leave. Tyler's whole demeanor shifted, expression softening into something that might have looked like love if you didn't know better. Baby, there you are. I've been so worried. I said leave. Just talk to me. Please? 5 minutes? We can figure this out. There's nothing to figure out. We're done. I left. I'm not coming back. You don't mean that. I do. Tyler took another step forward, and Ethan moved to block him. They were the same height, same build, but Ethan had 3 inches of reach and 2 years of boxing lessons he'd taken after Caroline died because hitting things had felt better than feeling anything. Step back, Ethan said quietly. Or what? Tyler's smile was gone now, replaced by something cold. You going to hit me? In front of her? That'll really prove you're different. I'm not going to hit you. I'm going to give you one chance to leave on your own. After that, I call the cops, file a trespassing report, and make sure every lawyer in this city knows your name. Big words from a guy who can't even keep his own wife alive. The world went white for a second. Ethan's hands clenched into fist, and he felt himself moving before he consciously decided to, closing the distance, ready to put Tyler on the ground and consequences be damned. Lena's voice cut through the rage. Ethan, don't! He stopped, muscles locked, breathing hard. Tyler was grinning now, triumphant. See? He's got a temper. That what you want, Lena? Another man who can't control himself? Get off my property, Ethan said, each word forced through gritted teeth. Now, or I'm calling 911 and pressing charges. For what? Standing on a public sidewalk? You're on my driveway. That's private property. You have 3 seconds. Tyler held his gaze for another beat, then stepped back, hands raised in mock surrender. Fine. I'll go. But this isn't over, Lena. We're married. You made vows. You don't just walk away from that. Watch me, Lena said, and her voice didn't shake even though Ethan could see her trembling from where he stood. Tyler got back in his car, engine starting, but before he pulled away, he rolled down the window. Enjoy playing house while it lasts. When he gets tired of you, and he will, I'll be waiting. He drove off, and the silence he left behind felt deafening. Ethan stood there breathing hard, fists still clenched, trying to come down from the adrenaline. Behind him, Lena made a sound that was half sob, half laugh. I'm sorry, she said. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have opened the door. When I saw him, I couldn't. Ethan turned, and she was crying again, arms wrapped around herself like she could hold the pieces together through pressure alone. He closed the distance in 2 strides, pulled her into his chest, and she fell apart exactly like she had Saturday night. You're okay, he said into her hair. You're okay. He's gone. He knows where I am. He knows where you live. He knows about Max. And now we know what he looks like. We have him on camera, and we have witnesses to him trespassing. This helps our case. He threatened you. He brought up your wife. I heard what he said. Ethan's jaw tightened. Doesn't matter. It does matter. He went after you to get to me. That's what he does. He finds what you love, and he threatens it until you back down. I'm not backing down. Lena pulled away, looked up at him with red eyes. Maybe you should. Maybe your friend was right. Maybe this is too much. Maybe... Don't. Ethan caught her face in both hands, made her look at him. Don't let him win like this. Don't let him make you think you're not worth fighting for. I'm not asking you to fight for me. I know. I'm doing it anyway. She searched his face like she was looking for cracks. For the moment he'd realize this was too hard and walk away. But Ethan had made his choice 5 days ago when she showed up on his porch barefoot and terrified, and nothing Tyler Hart said or did was going to change it. He's not going to stop, Lena whispered. Neither am I. They stood there on his porch in the rain, and somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled. They went inside, locked the door, set the alarm. Ethan's hands were still shaking from adrenaline and the effort it had taken not to put his fist through Tyler's face. He pulled up the security footage on his phone, saved the clip of Tyler's arrival and confrontation, sent it to Rebecca Chen with a brief explanation. Evidence. Documentation. All the things that were supposed to matter. Lena had disappeared into the kitchen, and when Ethan followed, he found her standing at the sink with her hands braced on the counter, breathing like she'd just run a marathon. You okay? He asked, knowing it was a stupid question. No. She didn't turn around. He looked at me like I was his property, like the last 2 months didn't happen, like I never left. He's delusional. He's dangerous. Lena finally turned to face him. And now he knows where you live, where Max goes to school, what car you drive. He's going to use all of that. Let him try. You keep saying that like you're invincible. You're not. Nobody is. Ethan moved closer, kept his voice steady. I'm not claiming to be invincible. I'm saying I'm not going to let some controlling asshole intimidate me into abandoning you. That's not happening. Even if it costs you? Your peace of mind, your relationship with your business partner, your... She stopped, looked away. He said something about your wife, about not keeping her alive. That was a cheap shot from someone desperate to get under my skin. Did it work? Ethan considered lying, decided against it. Yeah. For about 2 seconds, I wanted to break his jaw. Then I remembered you were watching, and that's exactly what he wanted. So I didn't. I'm sorry he went there. Not your fault what comes out of his mouth. Lena's phone buzzed on the counter. She looked at it, face draining of color. Ethan picked it up before she could. Saw the message from another unknown number. Tell your boyfriend I'm not scared of him. You're coming home one way or another. He forwarded it to himself, to Rebecca. Blocked the number. The phone buzzed again immediately. Different number. Same message with slight variation. Clock's ticking, Lena. This can be easy or hard. Your choice. Ethan blocked that one, too. 3 more messages came in rapid succession, each from a different number, each escalating in tone. By the 5th one, Tyler had moved past threats and into detailed descriptions of what he'd do when he got Lena alone. Stop reading them, Lena said quietly. I'm documenting them. You're making yourself sick. I can see it in your face. Ethan set the phone down, scrubbed both hands over his face. She was right. His stomach was churning, head pounding, rage and helplessness warring for dominance. How did you live with this for years? I didn't. I survived it. There's a difference. The phone kept buzzing. Ethan turned it face down, but they could still hear it, each vibration like a small detonation. After the 8th message, he grabbed it, powered it off completely. He'll just switch to calling, Lena said. Then we'll turn that off too. Or we get you a new number. And he'll find that one. Tyler's good at finding things. She slumped into one of the kitchen chairs. I should leave. Go somewhere else. Lead him away from you and Max. Where would you go? I don't know. Another city, another state. Keep moving until... She stopped, because they both knew there was no ending to that sentence that didn't involve running forever. That's not a solution, Ethan said. That's just prolonging the problem. At least it keeps you out of it. I'm already in it. Because I dragged you into it. You knocked on my door. I made the choice to answer. Everything after that has been my decision. Ethan sat down across from her. Stop trying to protect me. That's not your job. What is my job? Surviving. Getting through this. Building a life that doesn't include him. Lena laughed, brittle and sharp. That life doesn't exist. You saw him today. He's never going to let me go. So we make him. How? Good question. Ethan didn't have an answer that didn't involve violence or illegal activity or both. Rebecca Chen had been clear. Restraining orders only worked if the other party respected them. Tyler Hart didn't respect anything except his own wants. I don't know yet, Ethan admitted, but we'll figure it out. That's not a plan. It's the start of one. They sat in silence, broken only by the rain against the windows. Ethan checked his watch. 2:30. He needed to pick up Max from school in an hour, needed to pretend everything was normal, needed to be a father instead of whatever he was turning into. I have to get Max soon, he said. You want to come with or stay here? Stay here. I can't be around people right now. Lock the doors behind me. Alarm code's still the same. I know. Ethan grabbed his keys, hesitated at the door. Lena. Yeah? Don't open the door for anyone. I don't care if they say they're police, delivery, whatever. Nobody gets in except me and Max. Okay? I'm serious. Tyler's escalating. That confrontation wasn't random. He's testing boundaries, seeing what he can get away with. I understand. Ethan left, but the entire drive to Max's school he felt like he was making a mistake. Leaving Lena alone felt wrong, felt dangerous, but taking her with him meant explaining to his 7-year-old why their house guest couldn't be left by herself. There were no good options. Max came running out of school with a paper in his hand, excited about something his art teacher had said. Ethan tried to focus on his son's chatter, tried to be present, but his mind kept drifting back to Lena alone in his house, and Tyler out there somewhere planning his next move. Dad, you're not listening, Max said. Sorry, buddy. Say it again. I said, can Lena help me with my art project? It's due Friday, and I need help with the colors. Maybe, We'll see. She's nice. I like her. Yeah, she is nice. Is she going to stay with us forever? Ethan glanced at his son in the rearview mirror. No, bud, just for a little while. Why? Her house needs work. Remember? Oh, right. Max went back to his paper and Ethan felt something twist in his chest. His son was getting attached. Of course he was getting attached. Max had spent 2 years in a house with just Ethan, no other adult presence besides his grandmother, and now here was Lena being warm and interested in everything a kid needed from a parental figure. This was going to hurt when it ended. And it would end one way or another. Either Tyler would give up and Lena would move on with her life, or Tyler would escalate to the point where intervention became unavoidable, or Ethan cut off that line of thinking before it could go somewhere dark. When they got home, Lena was in the living room with her laptop, working on something that made her scowl at the screen. She looked up when they came in, smiled at Max. How was school? Good. I got picked to be line leader tomorrow. Max dropped his backpack, ran over to show her his art project paper. And look, we're doing color theory. Do you know about color theory? A little bit. I'm a graphic designer, so color's kind of my thing. Can you help me? It's due Friday. Lena glanced at Ethan, who nodded. Sure. After dinner? Yes! Max ran upstairs to change, and Lena closed her laptop. He's a good kid. Getting too attached to you, though. I noticed. I can pull back if you want. No, it's... Ethan sat down on the arm of the couch. It's fine. Just something I'll have to manage when this is over. When I leave, you mean? That's not what I meant. Kind of is, though. Lena set her laptop aside. Your friend was right earlier, wasn't he? The one you talked to at the office. I'm a distraction, a project. And when the project's done, you go back to your life. It's not like that. Then what is it like? Ethan didn't have an answer that made sense, even to himself. What was this? Helping a neighbor in crisis? Playing white knight? Using someone else's problems to avoid his own? Maybe all of it. Maybe none of it. I don't know, he said finally, but I know I'm not ready for it to end. Lena studied him, something shifting in her expression. Why? Because for the first time in 2 years, I'm not just going through the motions, He stopped, trying to find the right words. I'm awake, present, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, maybe that makes me selfish. Maybe I am using this as a distraction, but it doesn't change the fact that I want to help you. Not because I need a project, because I care. You barely know me. I know enough. What do you know? I know you left everything to escape abuse. I know you're scared, but you're still standing. I know you cry when you're overwhelmed, and you're good with kids, and you make decent coffee, and you're stronger than you think you are. Ethan met her eyes. And I know that whatever this is between us, it's real, even if it started in crisis, even if it's complicated. Lena looked away, blinking hard. You can't say things like that. Why not? Because it makes me hope. And hope's dangerous when you're living like this. Maybe danger's worth it. Before she could respond, Max came thundering back down the stairs, changed into play clothes, asking if he could watch TV before dinner. Lena wiped her eyes quickly, smiled at him, and the moment passed. But Ethan felt it hanging between them like something fragile and vital and terrifying. Dinner was quieter than usual. Max talked less, seemed to pick up on the tension radiating off the adults. Afterward, Lena helped him with his color theory homework, while Ethan did dishes and tried not to think about Tyler or Rebecca Chen or the fact that the restraining order hearing was scheduled for next Monday, and that was 6 days away, and anything could happen in 6 days. His phone rang. Rebecca Chen, like she'd read his mind. I got your footage, she said without preamble. It's good. Shows clear harassment, trespassing, threatening behavior. The texts help too. We've got a solid case for the temporary order. What about permanent? That depends on the hearing. If Tyler shows up and acts the way he did today, the judge will likely grant it. If he lawyers up and plays the concerned husband angle, it gets murkier. He threatened her, multiple times. Verbally, with no witnesses besides you. His lawyer will argue it was taken out of context. You'd be surprised how often these things get dismissed. Ethan's grip on the phone tightened. So what are we supposed to do? Wait around for him to escalate to physical violence before anyone takes this seriously? Unfortunately, that's how the system works a lot of the time. But we do what we can with what we have, document everything, stay vigilant, and hope the judge sees through his act. Rebecca paused. How's she holding up? She's scared. Trying not to show it, but she's scared. And you? What about me? You're housing a woman being stalked by her violent ex-husband. That affects you too. You doing okay? Ethan looked through the doorway at Lena and Max bent over his homework, their heads close together. Lena explaining something about complementary colors while Max listened with rapt attention. I'm managing. That's not an answer. It's the best one I've got. Rebecca sighed. Be careful, Ethan. I've seen situations like this go bad. Make sure you're prepared for how bad it might get. I'm prepared. Are you really? Because from where I'm sitting, you're emotionally invested in someone you just met. You're making yourself a target, and you have a son to think about. Those three things don't mix well. I appreciate the concern, but I know what I'm doing. Do you? Because the Ethan Cole I know, the one who built a multi-million-dollar company from nothing, he's methodical, calculated. He doesn't make impulsive decisions. But this is impulsive. Sometimes impulsive is necessary. And sometimes it gets people hurt. Rebecca's voice softened. I'm not trying to talk you out of helping her. I'm trying to make sure you understand what you're signing up for. Tyler Hart isn't going to back down because you installed some cameras and filed some paperwork. Men like him escalate. They get more dangerous when they feel they're losing control. And right now, he's watching his wife bond with another man and his son. That's going to make him desperate. Desperate people do desperate things. I understand the risks. I hope so, because I'd hate to see this end badly for everyone involved. She hung up, and Ethan stood in his kitchen with the phone in his hand, trying not to let Rebecca's words burrow too deep. She was right about the risks. She was probably right about him being impulsive. But walking away now felt impossible, felt like abandonment, felt like proving Tyler right about him being just another guy who'd bail when things got hard. He went back to the living room. Lena had finished helping Max with his homework and was reading him a story now, some book about dragons that Max had loved since he was 4. Ethan stood in the doorway watching them, and something in his chest ached. This was what normal felt like. This was what home felt like. And he'd forgotten somewhere along the way, buried it under grief and work, and the mechanics of single parenting, but here it was again. Fragile. Temporary. Real. At 8:30, Max went to bed without argument, exhausted from the day. Lena and Ethan were left alone in the living room, the TV on, but neither of them watching it. Thank you for helping him with his homework, Ethan said. I liked it. He's a good kid. Curious. He is. Gets that from his mom. Lena pulled her knees up to her chest. You don't talk about her much. Caroline. Not a lot to say that doesn't hurt. How did she die? If you don't mind me asking. Ethan didn't answer right away, trying to decide if he minded. He'd told the story enough times that it should have been easy by now, but it never got easier. Car accident. She was driving home from a work thing, late, raining. Truck ran a red light and hit her driver's side. She died before the ambulance arrived. I'm sorry. Yeah, me too. He stared at the TV without seeing it. Worst part is we'd argued that morning. Something stupid. I don't even remember what. And I never got to apologize. Never got to tell her I didn't mean it. Just got a call from the hospital, and then my whole life was different. That must be, I can't even imagine. It's like living in 2 different timelines. There's before, when everything made sense and I knew who I was. And there's after, when nothing makes sense and I'm just trying to figure out how to exist without her. Ethan looked at Lena. Jake thinks I'm using you to avoid dealing with that, with the fact that I'm still angry at the universe for taking her. Are you? Using me? I mean, I don't know, maybe. But if I am, it's not conscious. It's, you needed help. I could provide it. Everything else is just noise. It's not noise, though. Your feelings matter. Your grief matters. You can't just bury it and hope it goes away. I've been doing exactly that for 2 years. How's that working out? Ethan laughed, sharp. About as well as you'd expect. They sat in silence for a while, the weight of their respective damages settling between them. Two broken people trying to hold each other together while falling apart themselves. It should have been a disaster. Maybe it was a disaster, but it felt necessary, felt right in a way Ethan couldn't explain and didn't want to examine too closely. Can I ask you something? Lena said finally. Yeah. What happens when this is over? When Tyler's gone or locked up or whatever? What happens to us? Us. The word hung in the air between them, loaded with implications neither of them had voiced out loud. I don't know, Ethan said honestly. Haven't thought that far ahead. Maybe you should. Why? Because Max is getting attached. Because I'm getting attached. Because you're... She stopped, looked away. Because whatever this is, it's going somewhere. And I need to know if you're going to be there when it does, or if you're going to wake up one day and realize you were just playing hero. I'm not playing anything. Then what are you doing? Ethan turned to face her fully. I'm trying to make sure you're safe, and yeah, maybe somewhere along the way it became more than that. Maybe I started caring about you as a person instead of just a problem to solve. Maybe I like having you here, like hearing you laugh with my son, like waking up and knowing you're across the hall. Maybe all of that scares the hell out of me because it's been 2 years, and I didn't think I was allowed to feel this way about anyone ever again. But I'm not using you, and I'm not going anywhere. Lena's eyes were bright with unshed tears. You can't promise that. Yes, I can. Tyler's not going to disappear just because we want him to. This could go on for months, years. You can't commit to that. Watch me. She shook her head, but she was smiling through the tears. You're either the most stubborn person I've ever met or the kindest. Probably both. Lena wiped her eyes, laughed wetly. What am I supposed to do with you? Trust me, that's all. I'm trying. It's just, trusting people hasn't worked out well for me historically. I'm not people, I'm... Ethan stopped, realizing what he was about to say and how much weight it carried. You're what? I'm someone who cares about you, more than I probably should given the circumstances. But I do, and I'm not going to apologize for it. Lena looked at him like she was seeing him for the first time, really seeing him, all the broken pieces and rough edges and desperate hope. Then she leaned forward, slowly, giving him time to pull back. He didn't. Her lips met his, soft and careful and tasting like salt from her tears. The kiss lasted maybe 3 seconds before she pulled away, eyes wide. Sorry, she whispered. I shouldn't have... Ethan caught her face in both hands and kissed her back, harder this time, 2 years of loneliness and grief and need pouring into it. Lena made a sound against his mouth, hands fisting in his shirt, and for a moment the whole world narrowed to this, her warmth, her breath, the way she fit against him like she was made to be there. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. Don't apologize, he said. Not for this. This is crazy. We're crazy. Yeah, don't care. Lena laughed, shaky and bright. What are we doing? Surviving. Together. That's not a long-term plan. It's all I've got right now. They kissed again, slower this time, less desperate and more certain. When they pulled apart, Lena was crying again, but smiling too, and Ethan felt something in his chest that he'd thought died with Caroline. Hope. Possibility. The belief that maybe the after didn't have to be empty forever. His phone buzzed. Security camera alert. The moment shattered. Ethan grabbed his phone, pulled up the feed. Tyler's car was back, parked across the street, engine running. As they watched, Tyler got out, walked up to Lena's house, pulled out a can of spray paint. No, Lena breathed. They watched helplessly as Tyler painted something across her front door, words too dark to read in the dim light from the street lamp. Then he got back in his car and drove away, slowly, like he had all the time in the world. Ethan was already on his feet, phone in hand. Stay here with Max. Lock the doors. I'm going to check what he wrote. Ethan, don't. I'm just looking. I'm not engaging. He grabbed his keys, headed for the door. Call 911 if anyone besides me tries to get in. He crossed the street at a jog, rage pushing aside common sense. The paint was still wet when he got to Lena's door, dripping down the wood in thick black letters. Whore. Ethan took a picture, sent it to Rebecca, sent it to himself, sent it to the police tip line they'd been told to use. Then he stood there, staring at the word, at the hatred in it, and felt his last shred of patience snap. Tyler Hart wanted a war. Fine. He could have one. Back at his house, Lena was standing in the doorway, phone clutched in white-knuckled hands. What did it say? Doesn't matter. Ethan, it doesn't matter because we're handling this tonight. I'm calling Rebecca, I'm filing an emergency order, and I'm making sure Tyler understands that the next time he comes near you or your property, he's going to jail. Emergency orders take time. Then we make time. Ethan pulled out his phone, started dialing. I'm done playing nice. I'm done documenting and waiting and hoping the system works. We're going on offense. Lena caught his arm. What does that mean? It means Tyler Hart just made the biggest mistake of his life. And he's about to find out what happens when you threaten someone I care about. Ethan, please, don't do something you'll regret. He looked at her, at the fear in her eyes, and forced himself to take a breath. I'm not going to do anything illegal, but I'm not sitting back anymore either. We're ending this, one way or another. Rebecca answered on the third ring, irritated. It's almost 10, Ethan. This better be important. Tyler just vandalized Lena's property. I have it on camera. What can we do? File a police report. Add it to the evidence for Monday's hearing. That's it? That's all we can do? Unless you want to press criminal charges, which will take months to process. Yes, that's all we can do right now. Rebecca paused. What did he write? Ethan told her, heard her sharp intake of breath. Okay, that's harassment, possibly hate speech depending on the DA's interpretation. I'll see if I can get the hearing moved up, but no promises. We can't wait until Monday. He's escalating. I know, but the legal system doesn't move on our timeline. Best I can do is file the paperwork first thing tomorrow, flag it as urgent, and hope a judge is available. And in the meantime, stay vigilant, keep documenting, don't engage. Ethan hung up, resisted the urge to throw his phone. Lena was watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. We should try to sleep, she said quietly. It's late. You think you can sleep after that? No, but we should try anyway. They went upstairs together, and when they reached the landing, Lena stopped outside the guest room, turned to face him. Thank you, she said, for everything, for not giving up even when this got insane. I told you, I'm not going anywhere. I'm starting to believe you. She kissed him again, soft and brief, then disappeared into the guest room. Ethan stood in the hallway for a long moment, trying to process the last hour. They'd crossed a line tonight, multiple lines, and there was no going back. He checked on Max, still sleeping, oblivious to the chaos downstairs, then went to his own room. Didn't bother trying to sleep, just pulled up the security feeds and watched them on repeat, waiting for Tyler to come back. He didn't. The street stayed empty. But Ethan knew it was just temporary. Tyler was planning something, and when it came, Ethan needed to be ready. Morning came with no sleep and a text from Rebecca at 6 a.m. saying she'd managed to get an emergency hearing scheduled for Thursday afternoon. 2 days. Ethan stood at his bedroom window, watching the sunrise paint Lena's vandalized door in shades of orange and red, the words still visible even from across the street, and tried to convince himself they could make it 2 more days without something breaking. Downstairs, he found Lena already awake, coffee made, staring at her laptop screen with the kind of focus that meant she was avoiding thinking about anything else. You sleep at all? He asked. Maybe an hour. She didn't look up. I've been researching restraining order violations. Did you know that in some states, violating one is only a misdemeanor? Tyler could break it a dozen times and just get fined. We're not in one of those states. How do you know? Because I looked it up at 3 a.m. when I couldn't sleep either. Ethan poured himself coffee, leaned against the counter. Violation here is up to a year in jail, mandatory if it's the second offense. So we just have to survive the first one. We'll survive all of them. Lena finally looked at him, dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a messy knot. You look terrible. Back at you. She smiled despite herself. We're quite a pair. Max came downstairs while they were making breakfast, dragging his backpack and complaining about a math test. Normal kid problems. Ethan clung to the normalcy like a lifeline, let himself believe for a few minutes that this was just a regular Tuesday morning and not the calm before whatever storm Tyler was brewing. At school drop-off, Max hugged Ethan harder than usual, and when Ethan pulled back to ask if everything was okay, his son just said, "I love you, Dad," and ran off to join his friends. 7 years old and already picking up on tension he couldn't name. Ethan sat in the parking lot for 5 minutes after, gripping the steering wheel, trying not to think about what would happen if Tyler shifted his focus to Max. When he got back home, Lena was on the phone with someone, voice tight with frustration. She hung up when she saw him, tossed the phone on the couch. "That was the police. They can't send anyone out about the vandalism until this afternoon at earliest. They suggested I file an online report. Did you tell them about the emergency hearing Thursday?" "Yes. They said it's good I'm pursuing legal channels and to keep documenting." She laughed, sharp. "I'm so tired of documenting. I have a file on my computer with 47 screenshots of text, 12 videos of Tyler showing up places he shouldn't be, and now photos of him spray painting slurs on my door. And none of it matters until a judge says it matters." Ethan crossed to her, pulled her into a hug before he could think better of it. She went rigid for a second, then collapsed against his chest, breathing hard. "I know," he said into her hair. "I know it feels pointless, but it's not. Thursday, that judge is going to see all of it and understand exactly what kind of person Tyler is. And if they don't, then we appeal. We find a different judge. We don't stop until someone listens." Lena pulled back, looked up at him with red-rimmed eyes. "You say that like it's simple." "It is simple. Not easy, but simple. We keep going until you're safe. That's the whole plan." "That's not a plan. That's—" She stopped, searching his face. "Why are you doing this? Really? Not the practiced answer. The real one." Ethan thought about lying, about giving her something easier to swallow. But they were past that now, past the point where either of them could pretend this was just neighborly concern. "Because when you showed up at my door that first night, I saw myself," he said quietly. "Not the situation, but the look in your eyes. Like you were barely holding on and didn't know if anyone would catch you if you fell. I had that same look for months after Caroline died. And I remember what it felt like when people looked away, when they decided my grief was too much to deal with. I swore if I ever saw that look in someone else, I'd do what I wished people had done for me, which is just be there. No conditions, no time limit, just there." Lena's eyes filled with tears. You're not responsible for saving everyone who's struggling." "I'm not trying to save everyone. Just you." "Why me?" "Because you knocked on my door, because Max likes you, because you make good coffee, and you're patient with a 7-year-old's rambling, and you laugh at my bad jokes. Because—" He stopped, the truth sitting heavy on his tongue. "Because somewhere in the last week I stopped seeing you as a problem to solve and started seeing you as someone I don't want to lose." Lena made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. "We barely know each other." "I know, doesn't make it less true." She kissed him then, hard and desperate, hands fisting in his shirt like she was trying to hold on to something solid in a world that kept shifting. Ethan kissed her back, let himself have this moment before reality crashed back in. His phone rang, Jake's name on the screen. Ethan ignored it, but it rang again immediately. On the third call, Lena pulled back. "Answer it, must be important." Ethan picked up, already bracing for whatever crisis couldn't wait. "Yeah. Where the hell are you? We have the investor call in 10 minutes. Ethan's stomach dropped. He'd completely forgotten. "I can't make it." "What do you mean you can't make it? Ethan, these are our biggest investors. You need to be on this call." "Something came up. You'll have to handle it." "Something came up." Jake's voice went cold. "Let me guess. Your neighbor situation." "Jake? No, I've been patient. I've covered for you. I've made excuses to the board about why our CEO is suddenly AWOL. But this is too much. Either you show up for this call, or I'm calling an emergency board meeting to discuss your fitness to lead this company." The threat hung in the air between them. Ethan looked at Lena, who'd gone pale, clearly able to hear Jake's raised voice through the phone. "Do what you need to do," Ethan said finally. "But I'm not on that call." "You're choosing some woman you've known for a week over the company we built together?" I'm choosing to help someone who needs it. If that's a problem for you, we can discuss my resignation later. Resignation? Jake laughed, bitter. You think I'm going to let you throw away 10 years of work because you're having some kind of breakdown? It's not a breakdown. It's a priority shift. It's career suicide. And I'm not going to watch you destroy yourself like this. Jake paused, voice softening slightly. Ethan, I get it. You're lonely. You want to feel needed. But this isn't the answer. This woman is using you. She's not using anyone. And when this all falls apart, you're going to be left with nothing. No company, no purpose. Just... Ethan hung up, turned his phone off completely, looked at Lena, who was staring at him with an expression somewhere between horror and disbelief. Did you just quit your job? Not officially, but probably eventually. Ethan, no, you can't do that. That company is your life. No, Max is my life. The company's just how I pay the bills. He set his phone on the counter. And if choosing to help you means walking away from it, then that's what I'll do. That's insane. You can't make decisions like that based on whatever this is between us. Why not? Because we don't even know what this is. We kissed twice. That doesn't mean you should blow up your entire career. I'm not blowing it up because we kissed. I'm making a choice about what matters to me. And right now, making sure you're safe matters more than a conference call with investors. Lena pressed both hands to her face. This is too much. You're putting too much on this. On me. I can't... What if it doesn't work out? What if Tyler wins, or I can't handle this, or we figure out we barely know each other, and this whole thing was just... Then at least I'll know I tried. I'll know I didn't walk away when things got hard. Ethan moved closer. Look, I'm not asking you to promise me anything. I'm not asking for a relationship or a future or any of that. I'm just asking you to let me help you get through this. Everything else, we figure out later. And your company will survive without me for a few days. And if it doesn't, then maybe I wasn't as essential as I thought. They stood there in his kitchen, the weight of the choice settling between them. Outside, a car drove slowly past. Not Tyler's, just a neighbor, but they both tensed anyway. This was what their lives had become. Hypervigilance, waiting for the next shoe to drop. Lena's phone buzzed. She looked at it, face tightening. He's texting again, different number. What's it say? She showed him. Saw your boyfriend storm out of work. Trouble in paradise? Don't worry, baby. I'll be there to pick up the pieces. Ethan's jaw clenched. He's watching The Office. Or he's guessing. He's too specific. He knows I left. Ethan grabbed his phone, powered it back on, pulled up Jake's number. His business partner answered on the first ring. Changed your mind? Is there anyone unusual in or around the building right now? Someone who doesn't belong? What? Why? Just answer the question. Jake was quiet for a moment, and Ethan could picture him walking to the window, scanning the street below. There's a guy in a dark sedan parked across the street. Been there about 20 minutes. Why? That's Tyler Hart, Lena's ex. Call security, have them get his plate number, and tell them not to engage. Just document that he was there. Ethan, what the hell is going on? I'll explain later. Just do it, please. Fine, but we're talking about this. Really talking, not you hanging up on me. Agreed. Later. Ethan hung up, looked at Lena. He's escalating, watching my work, texting you about it. He's trying to isolate you, make you think nowhere's safe. It's working. No, it's making him predictable. He's following a pattern. Show up, make threats, disappear. We can use that. Use it how? Good question. Ethan pulled up Rebecca's number, called her. She answered with her usual efficiency. I'm in court. Make it quick. Tyler's surveilling my office. He knows my movements. We need to do something before Thursday. Like what? We have an emergency hearing scheduled. That's the fastest the system moves. What if he tries something before then? Then you call 911 immediately. But Ethan, you can't go on offense here. Anything you do that could be construed as threatening or harassing will hurt your credibility at the hearing. You have to stay clean. Even if he's watching me, watching her, but document it. Send me evidence, but don't engage. I mean it. Rebecca's voice softened. I know this is hard. I know it feels like nothing's moving fast enough. But we're almost there. 2 more days. Can you make it 2 more days without doing something we'll all regret? Ethan looked at Lena, saw the fear and exhaustion etched into every line of her face. Yeah, 2 more days. He hung up, and they spent the rest of Tuesday in a state of suspended tension. Ethan worked from home, or tried to, mostly just stared at his laptop while checking security feeds every 5 minutes. Lena did the same, both of them pretending to be productive while really just waiting. Tyler's car appeared twice more that day. Once at noon, parking in front of Lena's house for exactly 10 minutes before driving away. Once at 4, right when Ethan left to pick up Max from school. The message was clear. I'm watching. I know your schedule. I can get to you anytime. Max was quiet on the drive home, and when Ethan asked what was wrong, his son just shrugged. Some kids at school were being mean. About what? They said my dad's girlfriend is ugly, and that's why someone wrote a bad word on her door. Ethan's hands tightened on the steering wheel. How do they know about that? Jacob's mom drove past yesterday. She told Jacob, and he told everyone. Max looked out the window. I said Lena's not ugly, and she's not your girlfriend. She's just staying with us, but they kept saying it anyway. I'm sorry, bud. Kids can be cruel. Is she your girlfriend? Ethan didn't know how to answer that. It's complicated. That's what adults say when the answer is yes, but they don't want to admit it. Smart kid. Too smart. Would it bother you if she was? Max thought about it. No, I like her. She's nice to me, and she doesn't talk to me like I'm stupid, and you smile more when she's around. I do? Yeah, you didn't smile much after Mom died, but you smile at Lena a lot. Ethan felt something crack in his chest, 7 years old and already trying to take care of his father's emotional well-being. I'm sorry I've been sad, Max. I didn't mean for you to worry about that. I don't worry. I just notice. Max unbuckled his seatbelt as they pulled into the driveway. Can we have tacos for dinner? Just like that, back to being a kid. Ethan envied that ability to compartmentalize, to care deeply one moment and move on the next. Sure, tacos sound good. Inside, Lena had cleaned the entire downstairs, clearly needing something to do with her hands. When Max ran upstairs to change, she turned to Ethan with worry in her eyes. Kids at his school are talking about the vandalism, about us. I know, he told me. This is affecting him, your reputation, his social life. Ethan, maybe, don't. He caught her hands. Don't say you should leave. Don't say this is too much. We're almost through this. Are we? Because it feels like it's getting worse, not better. Before Ethan could answer, his phone buzzed. Security alert. He pulled it up and his blood ran cold. Tyler was in his backyard, not near the fence, not at the edge of the property, in the backyard, 20 feet from his back door, just standing there, looking up at the house, smiling at the camera like he knew exactly where it was. Get Max, Ethan said quietly. Upstairs. Lock yourselves in my bedroom, now. Lena's face went white. What's happening? Tyler's in the backyard. Go, now. She ran for the stairs, calling for Max. Ethan grabbed his phone, dialed 911 with shaking hands. The dispatcher answered, and he forced himself to speak calmly. There's an intruder in my backyard. I have a child in the house, and a woman with an active stalking situation. We need police now. What's your address? He gave it, watched the security feed as Tyler pulled out his phone and started typing. A second later, Lena's phone buzzed upstairs. Then Ethan's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Nice house. Would be a shame if something happened to it. Or to your son. Rage flooded through Ethan's system, white-hot and overwhelming. He was moving toward the back door before he consciously decided to, ready to drag Tyler off his property with his bare hands if necessary. Sir, please stay inside until officers arrive, the dispatcher was saying. Do not confront the intruder. Ethan stopped, hand on the doorknob, everything in him screaming to go outside and end this. But upstairs he could hear Lena's voice, tight with fear, reassuring Max that everything was fine. His son, his responsibility. He stepped back from the door, watched the feed as Tyler waved at the camera, got back in his car, and drove away. Gone before the police could arrive. Again. 2 officers showed up 15 minutes later, took statements, looked at the security footage, and told Ethan what he already knew. Without Tyler actually breaking in or making an explicit threat, there wasn't much they could do except add it to the report for Thursday's hearing. "He threatened my son," Ethan said, voice shaking. "He was on my property. That's trespassing." "We understand, sir, and we'll include all of this in our report. But he's gone now. And unless he comes back, he'll come back. That's what he does." The officers exchanged a look. The older one spoke up. "Sir, has anyone suggested you might want to take your son and stay somewhere else for a few days until this hearing is resolved? Run away, you mean? Relocate temporarily, for safety." Ethan looked at Lena, who was standing in the kitchen doorway with Max clinging to her side, both of them pale and shaken. Running meant Tyler won, meant he'd successfully driven them out of their own home, but staying meant putting Max at risk, and that wasn't a choice at all. "We'll think about it," he said finally. After the police left, Ethan sat down with Max and tried to explain what was happening in terms a 7-year-old could understand. Someone was bothering Lena. The police were helping. Everything was going to be okay. "Was that man in our backyard the bad guy?" Max asked. Ethan wanted to lie, wanted to protect his son from the reality of how dangerous this had become. But Max was smart, and lying would just make him trust Ethan less. "Yeah, buddy, that was him." "Is he going to hurt us?" "No, I won't let that happen." "Promise?" Ethan pulled his son into a hug, breathing in the kid smell of him, and made a promise he had no idea if he could keep. "Promise." That night, after Max was asleep, Ethan and Lena sat in his living room with all the lights off, watching the security feeds like they might conjure Tyler out of thin air. "I should go," Lena said quietly. "Take you up on that officer's suggestion. Leave town. Go somewhere Tyler can't find me." "He'll find you. He always finds you. Then I keep running. Forever if I have to. But I can't. I can't let Max get hurt because of me. I can't let you lose everything you've built." "You're not making me lose anything. Tyler is. Same result." "Not the same at all." Ethan turned to face her. "If you run, he wins. He gets to control your life indefinitely. Is that what you want?" "I want you and Max to be safe. We are safe. We have security, we have police documentation, we have a hearing in 2 days that's going to put legal barriers between you and him. Legal barriers he'll ignore. You heard, Rebecca? Restraining orders only work if people respect them. So we make him respect it. We make the consequences so severe he has no choice." Lena laughed, tired and broken. "How?" "He's already facing trespassing charges, harassment charges, stalking charges. None of it matters to him. She stopped, something shifting in her expression. "He's not rational. That's what I keep forgetting. Normal people respond to consequences. Tyler doesn't. He'll burn his whole life down before he lets me go." "Then we make sure he burns alone and doesn't take you with him." They sat in the dark, and eventually Lena's head dropped to Ethan's shoulder. He put his arm around her, and they stayed like that until nearly midnight, both of them dozing in and out, neither wanting to admit they should go upstairs and pretend to sleep. Wednesday came with rain and a text from Rebecca saying the hearing was confirmed for 2 p.m. Thursday. 26 hours. Ethan counted them down like a prisoner marking days until parole. Tyler's car appeared 3 times that day, but he didn't get out, just drove past slowly. A reminder. A threat. The waiting was its own kind of torture, and by Wednesday night both Ethan and Lena were strung so tight they barely spoke, just existed in parallel states of anxiety. Max asked at dinner why everyone was so quiet, and Lena forced a smile and asked about his day. He chattered about a science experiment with vinegar and baking soda, and Ethan tried to focus on that, on his son's excitement about simple chemical reactions, instead of on the complex human disaster unfolding around them. That night, Ethan couldn't even pretend to sleep. He stayed on the couch with his phone, watching the security feeds, waiting. At 2 a.m., Lena came downstairs in pajamas, sat next to him without a word. They watched the feeds together until dawn, 2 people holding on to each other in the dark. Thursday morning arrived gray and cold. The hearing was at 2. Ethan made breakfast mechanically, got Max ready for school, dropped him at his mother's house because no way was he leaving his son anywhere Tyler might think to look. His mother took one look at him and pulled him aside. You look terrible. When's the last time you slept? Doesn't matter. Can you keep Max until I call you? Might be late tonight. What's going on? The hearing for Lena's restraining order is today. I need to know Max is somewhere safe. His mother's face softened. Of course. But Ethan, after this is done, we need to talk. Really talk. About all of it. I know. Later. He left before she could push more, drove back to find Lena dressed in the most professional clothes she owned, makeup carefully applied to hide the exhaustion. She looked put together and terrified. Ready? Ethan asked. No, but let's go anyway. The courthouse was downtown, gray stone and bureaucratic efficiency. They met Rebecca outside, and she walked them through what to expect. The judge would hear both sides, review the evidence, make a decision. It could take an hour or 5 minutes. There was no way to predict. Is Tyler required to be here? Lena asked. He was served with notice of the hearing. Whether he shows up is his choice. Rebecca checked her watch. But if he doesn't, that works in our favor. Makes him look like he's not taking this seriously. They went inside, through security, up to the 3rd floor. The courtroom was smaller than Ethan expected, more like a conference room than the dramatic spaces he'd seen on TV. A handful of other people were waiting for their cases to be called, all of them looking as exhausted and desperate as Ethan felt. At 1:50, the clerk called their case. Rebecca stood, gestured for them to follow. They took seats at a table facing the judge's bench. The chair next to them, where Tyler would sit if he showed, remained empty. The judge entered at exactly 2, a woman in her 60s with gray hair and sharp eyes. She reviewed the file in front of her, looked up at Lena. Ms. Hart, you're petitioning for a restraining order against Tyler Hart, is that correct? Yes, Your Honor. And Mr. Hart has been properly served and notified of this hearing? Yes, Your Honor, Rebecca confirmed. The judge made a note. Very well. Ms. Chen, present your case. Rebecca stood, launched into a concise summary of everything that had happened. The escape from an abusive marriage, the cross-country move, the escalating harassment. She presented the security footage, the text messages, the photos of the vandalism. 47 pieces of evidence, each one a small horror Lena had endured. Ethan watched the judge's face, trying to read her reaction. She remained impassive through most of it, but something shifted when Rebecca showed the footage of Tyler in Ethan's backyard, when she read aloud the text threatening Max. And where is Mr. Hart now? The judge asked. Unknown, Your Honor. He was properly served but has chosen not to appear. The judge looked at Lena. Ms. Hart, can you tell me in your own words why you're seeking this order? Lena stood, voice shaking but clear. Because I'm afraid. I left my husband 2 months ago because he was controlling every aspect of my life. I thought I'd finally be safe. But he found me. And now he's threatening me. Threatening the people helping me. Threatening a 7-year-old child. I don't know what else to do. I just want him to leave me alone. Have you and Mr. Hart made any attempts at reconciliation or mediation? No, Your Honor. I don't want to reconcile. I want a divorce, and I want him out of my life. The judge made more notes, reviewed the evidence again. Mr. Cole, you're here as a witness? Ethan stood. Yes, Your Honor. And as someone who's been helping Ms. Hart through this situation. You're the neighbor whose property Mr. Hart trespassed on? Yes, Your Honor. And he threatened your son? Yes. The judge's expression hardened. I've seen a lot of these cases, Mr. Cole. They don't usually involve threats against children. That concerns me greatly. It concerns me too, Your Honor. She nodded, closed the file. I'm prepared to make a ruling, but first I want to be clear about something. Miss Hart, if I grant this order, it will prohibit Mr. Hart from contacting you, coming within 500 feet of you, or making any threats against you or anyone assisting you. If he violates it, he can be arrested and charged with a crime. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor. Good, because Mr. Hart's absence today tells me he doesn't respect this court or this process, which means he may not respect the order either. So I need you to be prepared for that possibility. Do you have a safety plan? She's staying with me until other arrangements can be made, Ethan said, and you're comfortable with that responsibility, Mr. Cole? Oui. Fine. Yes, Your Honor. The judge studied them both for a long moment. Very well. Based on the evidence presented and Mr. Hart's failure to appear or contest these allegations, I'm granting a temporary restraining order effective immediately. It will remain in place until the full hearing in 30 days, at which point we'll determine if a permanent order is warranted. Ms. Hart, you'll receive a copy of the order before you leave today. Make sure you keep it with you at all times. Mr. Cole, you should also keep a copy. And both of you should understand that this is just a piece of paper. It gives law enforcement tools, but it doesn't guarantee your safety. Remain vigilant. Thank you, Your Honor, Lena whispered. They filed out of the courtroom in a daze. Rebecca was already on her phone making arrangements for the order to be served to Tyler. Ethan and Lena stood in the hallway, and for the first time in a week, something in Ethan's chest loosened. We did it, Lena said. First step. It's a big step. Yeah, it is. They were halfway to the parking garage when Ethan's phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but some instinct made him pick up. Congratulations on your restraining order, Tyler said, voice pleasant like they were old friends. Hope it was worth it. It's over, Tyler. Stay away from her. It's not over until I say it's over. That piece of paper doesn't change anything. Lena's still my wife, and you're still a dead man walking who doesn't even know it yet. The line went dead. Ethan stood there with the phone pressed to his ear, trying to process the threat. Rebecca looked over, saw his expression. What happened? Tyler called, made threats. Record of it? No, I didn't think to. Next time, record it. Everything. We need documentation if he violates the order. Rebecca's expression was grim. This isn't over. You both need to understand that. The order gives us leverage, but it doesn't change who Tyler is. He's going to test it. And when he does, you call 911 immediately. Don't hesitate. Don't try to handle it yourself. Just call. They drove home in silence. Lena kept checking her phone like Tyler might call her too, but it stayed quiet. Ethan kept checking his mirrors, watching for the dark sedan, but the road behind them remained clear. At home, Ethan checked every lock, every camera, set the alarm. The restraining order paperwork sat on his kitchen counter, official and meaningless. Rebecca was right. It was just paper. It wouldn't stop Tyler if he was determined enough. I need to call my mom, Ethan said. Let her know we're back, that the hearing went well. I should probably call mine too. Tell her about the order. Lena looked at her phone with distaste. Not that she'll care. Do it anyway. Paper trail matters. They made their calls. Ethan's mother was relieved the hearing had gone well, but insisted on keeping Max overnight. Said he and Lena both needed a full night's sleep. Ethan agreed, too tired to argue. Lena's call to her mother went about as well as expected. Her mom spent 5 minutes telling her she was overreacting before Lena hung up mid-sentence. Well, that's done, Lena said flatly. I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm used to it. She set her phone down. What do we do now? We wait. See if Tyler respects the order. He won't. Probably not. But at least now when he doesn't, there are consequences. They ordered dinner because neither of them had the energy to cook, ate it mechanically while watching the security feeds. No Tyler, no threats. Just quiet, which felt wrong somehow. Like they'd moved into the eye of a storm and the back half was still coming. At 9, Lena went upstairs to shower. Ethan stayed down, laptop open, pretending to answer work emails. Jake had sent 14 messages, each one more urgent than the last. The board wanted answers. The investors were concerned. Ethan's absence was becoming a problem. He typed out a response. I'll be back Monday. Handle what you can until then. Jake's response came immediately. That's not good enough. Ethan closed the laptop. Monday was 3 days away. 3 days to make sure Lena was stable, the order was holding, Tyler had backed off. 3 days to figure out if he even wanted to go back to a company that demanded he choose between professional success and basic human decency. Upstairs, he could hear water running. Without thinking too hard about it, Ethan climbed the stairs, stopped outside the bathroom door. Steam was seeping out from under it, and through it he could hear Lena crying. Not the loud, broken sobs from before, but quiet, exhausted weeping that sounded like it came from somewhere too deep to ever fully heal. He knocked softly. "You okay?" The water shut off. "Yeah, sorry, I'll be out in a minute." "Take your time." When she emerged, hair wet and eyes red, Ethan was sitting in the hallway waiting. She looked at him, smiled tiredly. "You don't have to keep checking on me." "I know. I'm not going to fall apart. I know that too." She sat down next to him on the floor, shoulder pressed against his. "I'm tired, Ethan. Not just physically. I'm tired of being afraid, tired of running, tired of Tyler taking up space in my head. I want my life back." "You'll get it back." "Will I?" "Because it feels like even when this is over, even when Tyler's gone or arrested or whatever, I'm going to spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder, waiting for him to show up. That's not living." "No, it's not. But it's also not permanent. Time helps. Distance helps. Eventually the fear gets smaller." "How do you know?" "Because I lived it. Different situation, but same principle. After Caroline died, I was terrified all the time. Terrified something would happen to Max, terrified I'd screw up as a parent, terrified I'd never feel normal again. And slowly, so slowly I barely noticed, the fear got quieter. It's still there, but it doesn't run my life anymore." Lena leaned her head on his shoulder. "I don't know how you do it. Stay so calm when everything's falling apart." "I'm not calm. I'm just good at pretending. Could have fooled me." They sat in the hallway until Ethan's back started aching from the hard floor. When they finally stood, Lena caught his hand. "Thank you for everything, for not giving up on me even when I gave you every reason to." "You never gave me a reason to give up." "I'm pretty sure I gave you about 47. Ethan smiled despite everything. "Okay, maybe a few, but none of them stuck." She kissed him, soft and slow, and he kissed her back, let himself have this moment of peace before whatever came next. When they pulled apart, she looked at him with something in her eyes he couldn't quite name. "I'm falling for you," she said quietly. "I know that's probably a terrible idea given the circumstances, but I am, and I needed you to know." Ethan's heart did something complicated in his chest. "That's not a terrible idea." "It's not?" "No, it's the best thing that's happened to me in 2 years. She laughed, surprised. "That's a low bar." "Still true." They stood there in the hallway, and Ethan felt something settle in his chest. This was real. Messy and complicated and born out of crisis, but real. Whatever happened next, they'd face it together. His phone buzzed. Security alert. Ethan's stomach dropped as he pulled up the feed, but it was just a cat crossing the yard. False alarm. He let out a breath he hadn't known he was holding. "We should try to sleep," Lena said. "Real sleep, not just passing out from exhaustion." "Yeah." But neither of them moved. They stood there until the house settled around them, until the fear receded enough to feel almost normal. Then Lena went to the guest room and Ethan went to his, and they both pretended they might actually sleep. Ethan woke to his phone ringing at 3 a.m. police department. His heart stopped as he answered. "Mr. Cole, this is Officer Davidson. We responded to an incident at 247 Oakview Lane. That's your neighbor's property, correct?" "Yes. What happened?" "Someone set fire to the front porch. Fire department's already on scene, got it under control, but there's significant damage. We need you to come identify the property owner." Ethan was already out of bed, pulling on clothes. "I'll be there in 5 minutes." He knocked on Lena's door, told her what happened. They ran across the street together, and Ethan's stomach turned at the sight. The fire was out, but Lena's front porch was charred and smoking, the door spray-painted with that slur now half burned away. Firefighters were still checking for hot spots, and neighbors stood in their yards watching, and Ethan felt his last shred of patience evaporate. Tyler had done this. Had to be Tyler. Testing the restraining order less than 12 hours after it was issued. Officer Davidson met them at the edge of the property. "Ms. Hart, I'm sorry. We found evidence of accelerant. This was deliberately set." Lena just stared at her ruined porch, face blank. "Do you know who did it?" "Security cameras caught someone approaching the property around 2:30 a.m., but they were wearing a mask and hoodie. We're running the footage now." "It was Tyler," Lena said flatly. We can't make that determination without evidence. Then get evidence. He has a restraining order. He's not supposed to be within 500 feet of me, and now my house is on fire. The officer looked uncomfortable. We'll investigate fully, but Ms. Hart, I need to advise you that staying at this property might not be safe. Is there somewhere else you can go? She's staying with me, Ethan said. They spent another hour giving statements, watching the firefighters finish their work, fielding questions from neighbors who'd been woken by the sirens. By the time they got back to Ethan's house, it was nearly 5 a.m., and the sun was starting to lighten the sky. Lena collapsed on Ethan's couch, staring at nothing. He burned my house. Just the porch. It can be repaired. He burned my house, she repeated, like the words weren't quite making sense. The restraining order didn't even last 12 hours. Ethan sat next to her, pulled her against his chest. We're calling Rebecca as soon as it's a reasonable hour. This is a violation. Tyler's going to be arrested. You don't know that. He wore a mask. They can't prove it was him. Security footage shows someone his height, his build, coming from the direction of where he's been parking. That's enough for probable cause. And what if it's not? What if he gets away with this too? Then we keep fighting. Lena pulled back, looked at him with exhausted, red-rimmed eyes. I can't ask you to keep fighting. You've already given up so much. Your job, your peace of mind, your... Stop. Ethan caught her face in both hands. Stop trying to protect me by pushing me away. I'm here because I want to be. Because you matter to me. Because somewhere in the last week and a half, I stopped thinking about this as helping a neighbor and started thinking about it as protecting someone I care about. Someone I... He stopped, the words catching in his throat. Someone you what? Someone I love, he said quietly. I know that's fast. I know that's probably crazy, but it's true anyway. Lena's eyes filled with tears. You can't love me. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you're brave and stubborn and kind. I know you make my son laugh, and you're patient with his questions, and you see me as a person instead of just a wallet or a project. I know that when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I think about is whether you're okay. That's enough. What if this never ends? What if Tyler never stops? Then we deal with it, together, for as long as it takes. She kissed him hard, desperate, and he kissed her back, and they fell together on the couch in the pre-dawn light, like two people drowning, and each other was air. When they finally pulled apart, breathing hard, the sun had fully risen. Lena's phone was buzzing with notifications, Rebecca calling, probably seeing the police report. The real world crashing back in. But for a moment, they'd had peace, and that had to be enough. Rebecca filed an emergency motion that same day. By Friday afternoon, a warrant was issued for Tyler's arrest for violating the restraining order. Police went to his apartment. Empty. His work said he'd quit 2 weeks ago. His known associates hadn't seen him. Tyler Hart had disappeared. He's running, Rebecca said on a conference call, which is good news, means he knows the walls are closing in. Or he's planning something, Lena said. Let's not assume the worst. But the worst had been Tyler's pattern all along. Why would he change now? They spent the weekend in a state of suspended anxiety. Ethan picked up Max on Saturday, explained that Lena's house had been damaged and she'd be staying with them a bit longer. His son accepted this with the easy adaptability of children. Does this mean she's part of our family now? Max asked. Ethan didn't know how to answer that. Would you be okay if she was? Yeah, I like her. Me too, buddy. Monday came with still no sign of Tyler. The restraining order was permanent now. Violation charges pending, warrant active. Ethan went back to the office for the first time in over a week and faced a room full of executives who wanted explanations. I know I've been absent, he said, standing at the head of the conference table while Jake glared at him. I know I've let things slide, but I'm not apologizing for it. Sometimes life throws you situations where you have to choose between professional responsibilities and being a decent human. And I chose being a decent human. If that's a problem, I'll resign effective immediately. The room was silent. Then the CFO spoke up, a woman named Sandra who'd been with the company almost as long as Jake. Is the situation resolved? For now. Then we move forward. But Ethan, we need you here, not physically necessarily, but mentally, engaged. Can you do that? Ethan thought about it, really thought about it. Could he go back to 80-hour weeks and quarterly projections and board meetings that meant nothing beyond profit margins? After everything? I can be engaged, he said finally, but my hours are changing. I have a family to think about now, and that takes priority. He expected pushback. Instead, Sandra nodded. Fair enough. We'll adjust. The meeting continued business as usual, and Ethan felt something shift. He'd drawn a line. Work mattered, but it wasn't everything. Maybe it never had been, and he'd just been using it to avoid the empty spaces in his life. 2 weeks passed, then 3. No Tyler. No threats. The insurance processed Lena's claim and contractors repaired her porch. She started sleeping through the night. Max went back to school and the gossip died down. Ethan and Lena fell into a routine that felt suspiciously like normal. On a Tuesday in late November, exactly 1 month after Lena had knocked on his door at 3 a.m., they got the call. Tyler had been arrested in another state, attempting to purchase a gun illegally. The warrant from their state popped up. He was being extradited. Bail was denied. It's over, Rebecca said. He'll be tried, probably convicted, and you'll have years of peace while he's in prison. And after that, if he's smart, he'll leave you alone. Lena hung up the phone, looked at Ethan, and started crying. Not from fear this time, but from relief so profound it looked painful. It's over, she repeated. Yeah, it's over. They stood in his kitchen, their kitchen really, since she'd been living there for a month and showed no signs of leaving, and let the reality of safety sink in. That night, after Max was asleep, they sat on the couch and Lena asked the question Ethan had been dreading. What happens now? Now that I don't need protection anymore? Now that Tyler's gone? Ethan took her hand, threaded their fingers together. What do you want to happen? I want... She stopped, bit her lip. I want to stay, here, with you and Max, if you'll have me. Are you sure? This wasn't exactly a normal courtship. Nothing about us has been normal, but that doesn't make it less real. She looked at him. I love you, Ethan. I don't know if that's the trauma talking or genuine feeling, but I know that being with you feels like home, and I haven't had that in a long time. I love you too, he said, and meant it with everything in him. Stay, for as long as you want, forever, if that's what you're asking. That's what I'm asking. They kissed, and it felt different than all the times before. Not desperate or scared or born out of crisis, but certain, solid, real. 6 months later, Lena moved her stuff officially from across the street into Ethan's house. Her house sold to a nice couple with a baby, and she used the money to pay Ethan back for the security system and the legal fees and all the other expenses he'd refused to let her worry about. He invested it for her instead, set up a savings account she could access anytime she needed to feel independent. Max called her Lena Mom sometimes, when he forgot to be careful. She never corrected him. Tyler went to trial, was convicted on multiple charges, got 8 years. Lena didn't attend the trial, didn't need to see him again. Rebecca handled it all, and when it was done, Lena took the official notice of conviction and filed it away in a drawer she never opened. A year after that first night, Ethan proposed. Not because he thought Lena needed saving, or because he was trying to fix something broken, but because he'd fallen in love with her in every small moment since. The way she laughed at Max's jokes, the way she reorganized his kitchen cabinets and made them actually functional, the way she called him out when he was being stubborn, the way she fit into his life like she'd always been there. She said yes. They got married on a Saturday in spring with Max as ring bearer and no one from Lena's family in attendance. It should have been sad, but it wasn't. It was just them, choosing each other, building something new from the wreckage of what came before. Life wasn't perfect. Lena still had nightmares sometimes. Ethan still worked too much when stress got high. Max still asked hard questions about death and fear and why bad things happened. But they faced it together, all 3 of them. A family built not from fairy tales, but from the messy, complicated reality of 2 broken people who'd found each other at exactly the right moment. On their first anniversary, Lena stood in their backyard while Max played and Ethan grilled burgers, and said something that stuck with him. You know what I learned from all this? That asking for help isn't weakness. That love doesn't have to be perfect to be real. And that sometimes the worst thing that ever happens to you can lead to the best thing, if you're brave enough to let it. Ethan kissed her temple, watched their son chase fireflies in the fading light, and thought about that night a year ago when a terrified woman had knocked on his door. How easily he could have turned her away. How different his life would be if he had. "I'm glad you knocked," he said. "I'm glad you answered." And really, that was the whole story. One person desperate enough to ask for help. Another person willing to give it. Two broken people finding something whole in each other, not because it was easy or clean or made sense on paper, but because sometimes love shows up in crisis and asks you to be brave enough to trust it. They'd been brave, and they'd built something worth keeping. That was enough.